Well, it only happens once every 2 Olympic cycles, but Australia is in New Zealand, and let me tell you, Pezza, the Skeletons, they're out of the closet. Australia might have won the T20 series 3-0, sure, but were the real winners the Skeletons that got to print out giant posters of Smith and Warner crying at a press conference 6 years ago? Geez, they're nice guys. Once you get to know them! Bazball is dead this week, after England suffered their first series defeat since McCullum and Stokes took over. But the good news is that we get to change what Bazball is and what it all means every 8 seconds. India win their 17th consecutive home series, which you have to think England are somewhat responsible for. Barney Ronay joins us from the UK. Jeez, it's nice to have Barney back on the show. He's going to tell us what this all means. The punters and former My Cricket lovers said Play HQ was no good, so Cricket Australia Executive for Community Cricket, James Allsopp, joins us in the studio to give the case from the other side, plus saying names that make us feel young and safe, and also telling us how CA are growing the game, and if we can get more buckets on bonces at the BBL. There's also Australian domestic one-day finals with 3-peats for WA and Tassie, and the WPL has commenced in India with all the regular glitz, glamour, and Shah Rukh Khan that you've come to expect. Hashtag AskTGC this week is titled Alphaed by Someone's Mum. Sorry for all the value this week, but where else to start before all of then, Pezza, than to return to last week and discuss Victorian Premier Cricket controversies?
Biggest story of the week, in spite of everything you just said there, a thorough capturing of cricket around the globe, and you're barely even scratching the surface of it.
Yeah, I'm still itchy.
Biggest story of the week continues. Right, so people who tuned in last week, video, audio, doesn't matter, will have heard about the St Kilda versus Fitzroy Doncaster 4th grade clash. Top of the table, there or thereabouts, last round of the season, okay? And they would have seen some Zapruder-style footage of St Kilda having to face one over, as deemed by the umpires, after Fitzroy bowled out, and a very funny, long-winded, strange-to-watch, silent Zapruder film where a player was sent out in black shorts after 3 minutes. He was timed out. Then the captain came in to bat. Now,
All set to the theme of Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Exactly. And just letting the listeners, the viewers know after that in their chase of 240-odd made by Fitzroy, St Kilda nearly lost outright. They were rolled for like fuck all in the first innings, and then guys scored runs. Yeah, right. Now, it emerges after that, Higgins, that and do you have any reaction to that? By the way, just that's what happened in the game.
I would just like it if Play HQ had a score that said fuck all in it.
We see we've got
Oppo were rolled.
We've
for
got
fuck
the
all.
honcho of community cricket on this week to talk about Play HQ as well.
Got
okay.
Will there be a fuck all function?
Forgot to ask him that yesterday. It was good. It was a good chat.
What did you roll for?
It was a good chat. Tweet from Tom Morris. I think he's the chief footy reporter for Channel 9.
Sometimes.
Tweet from him following this game last week. So you would have thought that was all over.
I would have thought that's it.
Okay, that's funny.
Yeah, that's
Another
funny.
installment of village shit happening in cricket anywhere around the world. Could be from anywhere. Okay, that's it. No, it's not. Okay? Tom tweets, more to this, the tail ender who walked out in a singlet and black shorts, I've added black shorts for my own emphasis, was timed out, has been suspended for 1 game. He'll appeal. The captain, who sent his mate out as a sacrificial lamb, has been sent straight to the Victoria Premier Cricket Tribunal for conduct contrary nearly to the spirit of the game, and B, conduct that brings the game into disrepute.
Okay, first
and then he tags us in.
First of all, the language reference on
incredible.
Straight to the tribunal.
I love this, the Tom Morrisization of Premier Cricket in Victoria. So we're talking about harsh material punishments from Cricket Victoria for what we saw last week that we probably, along with many others, made fun of.
No one watches this, it's fine.
True. So, as I mentioned, St Kilda got rolled, nearly lost outright. I don't know about you, he goes, but the word that springs out to me from everything Tom just wrote there is disrepute.
yeah.
St Kilda's captain is Will Faulkner. So it was in the press.
Right.
So disrepute to me implies that there is some kind of repute to be protected.
I mean, playing cricket as an adult brings your life into disrepute.
I think that's arguable. There could be
some would say harsh,
an adjunct hearing at the tribunal about this. So just for some context here, Fitzroy finished top of the ladder. St Kilda finished third. So it's finals now. Finals cricket.
Oh.
So this
knockout gear.
This both teams are in the finals.
Oh shit!
So this isn't some kind of process that's just being like casually observed. There are real ramifications for this. Now, one player from St Kilda has already been suspended for their elimination semi-final. Right, so the guy who walked out in a singlet and black shorts can't play. Right, so he's out. And now. As far as I understand, well, from Tom's tweet, Cricket Victoria are going to deliberate. Guys at a tribunal are going to deliberate over whether to cost St Kilda's captain, and therefore I suppose their team and their club, the biggest game of his season because of his good faith, funny, yes, opportunistic miscalculation. He wanted an early tub.
Yeah.
Right? He thought that it was stumps. He sends his mate out, and they're saying that you're going to miss the biggest part of your season. Potentially. They're going to deliberate over that, right? So that's what's on the...
why does this feel like this is getting way too serious?
Yeah.
It's way too serious. Like... sorry, you go on.
No. I mean, we've got views.
Yeah, I mean... I'm not sure. Are we responsible for this? For bringing this?
No, there was lots of press.
Yeah,
there was lots.
We weren't
the first.
We picked it up in Code Sports, but like Coat Sports. It's something that I described.
That's right. Again,
which is kind of what this is.
Fanzine.
I mean, isn't this just like blokes who are working all week, not necessarily hard, but they probably have jobs during the week, and they like this is their outlet for the weekends, and you're going to like prevent him from the weekend, like when he would have paid. I'm guessing over the course of a summer, thousands of dollars, wasted money, as we've discussed in the show many times, to play this stupid sport. It's like, no, you can't. Isn't this?
It'd be part-time work hours, I reckon, giving it up. Training Tuesday, Thursday.
I mean, bringing the game into disrepute.
Yeah.
See, I mean, Frogbox is to blame for filming this, you know.
Like, you got to ask yourself, what is Cricket Victoria trying to deter against here? Like, are we looking at setting an example?
Yeah.
To Will, like the example to everybody else out there, you know, like Will Faulkner, 4th grade captain St Kilda.
Oh, it's 4th grade as well.
No, this is 4s.
Fucking hell, man! Come on, let the boys play.
He's gonna have to front a tribunal, I presume, in a bag of fruit.
He's got a KC there.
AFL cosplay style. Like I presume there'll be shaky cameras following him and that.
Are we gonna?
This is what we're talking about. This is bringing the game into disrepute.
We should do a side mouth outside with Vox
possibly. But what I'm asking is, is it because of the public nature of the episode?
Oh, right, yeah.
Must Will put on the AFL suit, and do the cosplay with everybody, press pack around him, because this has gone public?
Why'd you do it? Why'd you do it?
This is where the law needs to keep up with society. Like,
got it.
Does the rise of Zapruder footage showing the village actions of club cricketers every week, like partly explain this? Whole industries and economies have been built and emerged from this phenomenon of village cricketers being village. Is Frogbox to blame?
Yeah, well.
Can St Kilda call Frogbox as a witness?
Right, yeah, exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because without the Zapruder footage, maybe Cricket Victoria doesn't feel the game has been brought into disrepute. Now, I want to look at this from the other side.
Okay.
Maybe Cricket Victoria is railing against the wheelie binisation of Premier Cricket. Black shorts, singlet. We can't have this anymore.
Can't have it anymore. If we're going to call ourselves Premier
Cricket.
Right.
And people are seeing this, like there's
this isn't Premier at all. There's nothing Premier about this.
If you aggregate the views of the conversation last week, us, other, Code Sports, that's News Limited, you're running into the millions of people.
Yeah.
And I know that they're going home and they're thinking like, wow, I certainly had a view about Premier Cricket in Victoria, but its reputation is now somewhat sullied.
Are you saying it's in tatters?
Yes. I'm not saying tattered, but tatters, sorry.
I mean, to that end, Will's lucky to get a game. He should be getting life.
This, like, the thing that I would, urge people to consider is like this is club cricket. Like, village activity has always been present. It's just the technology that broadcasts it, And if Cricket Victoria thinks it can mitigate DNA-based village activity through suspensions, they think they can suspend their way out of village cricket. They are solely out of order. Like, that is knife to a gunfight stuff. That is trying to stab a fireball, Now, it's gone.
As a defence, I'm just using my legal brain here, Bez.
Please,
what I'd be doing if I was St Kilda representing as a KC, a king of the court.
Indeed.
I would.
Silk.
I would be saying, well, can we trust that footage? We need cameras in the truck.
That's right.
We need cameras in the truck.
Or just a truck.
We just need a truck just to get to the game.
That's right. We're very concerned about trucks with cameras outside club games. Not saying I haven't seen it. Our scorer drove a truck.
Couple of ankle bracelets knocking about. Now, okay, what about any sort of punishment? I mean, what about time served, Pezza? He's already done a whole summer. That's time served.
When the tribunal deliberates over this, will they factor in technological advances and the fact that Will Faulkner has been subject to millions of an aggregated audience running into the millions?
Yes.
Considering his humiliation as a village cricketer.
I mean, if he was an advertiser, just the impressions, just by continually saying his name, would be through the roof. We'd be in and out of this campaign already.
Exactly.
He said his name
so he's already served time. Like, he's already been the butt of these jokes, right? Of being a village cricketer. Does a suspension on top of that, like killing a guy's season, because Cricket Victoria goes, we just cannot cop the disreputation.
Okay, I'll stop joking now. That's actually fucked if he... that's straight up fucked if he...
Well, I'll tell you what, from a comms perspective, the way they keep the story going is by literally rubbing him out of the season because of this. Like, this is a guy... Basically, the guy... wanted an early tub. He miscalculated that it was the end of the game. If a wicket fell, he opportunistic. He made a quick decision to send somebody out there in his place. Okay, it's opportunistic. He's not the first cricketer to be that. And then he went out to bat after that. And they've already suspended one guy, and then they're going to... Like, the finals cricket is literally what you play for. As you said before, you're spending probably 20 plus hours a week giving it up to play cricket. You spend thousands of dollars on kit, petrol, tolls, relationships, opportunity cost, etc., therapy. And you're going to take away the biggest, possibly the biggest game as a result of this. Like that is how you that is how you create disrepute of a competition.
Yeah, that sounds pretty aggressive.
Anyway,
support for the great cricketer comes from our patrons at patreon.com/great cricket. You can sign up and pay $5 or $10 US a month to support TGC. You get #AskTGC Fridays every single week. And let me tell you, the week coming up is, well, actually the week past, with England and India embroiled in a test series, and of course New Zealand and Australia at the same time. The live chat has been popping off, and people just getting around each other in the member community. You can sign up for free if you want to do that. You don't get anything in any capacity. You don't get access to the chat or any of the free shows, but that's where you support TGC, if that's what you want to do. Let's talk about New Zealand and Australia, Pezza. That series, we'll start with the T20 series. Australia won 3-0, obviously. The first game was an absolute banger in Wellington there. Australia won by 6 wickets, but Tim David hit a 4 off the last ball to win the game. New Zealand made 215 for 3 in the first innings. Australia 4 down, 216. Mitchell Marsh 72, Red off 44, also took 1 for. But Tim David at the end there was magnificent, hitting a 4 off the last ball. The second game was in Auckland. Australia batted first, made 174, and then they won the game by 72 runs by bowling New Zealand out in 17 overs for 102. Pat Cummins, player of the match, 28 of 22 and 1 for 19. The third game was in Auckland again, and Australia won a rain-affected game on the Duckworth-Lewis-Stern method. They batted first, Australia, 10.4 overs in, 118 for 4. New Zealand couldn't get it done. In their 10 overs, they were 98 for 3. Matt Short actually played the game, 27 off 11, then took 1 for as well. So just about this white ball series to start with, Pezza. Now, I was like...
Where do you want to start? Like sort of on-field, like matchup stuff, or...?
No, thank you.
Thanks.
I am really looking forward to the tests because it's a long time since it's been there. I like the hues. I like the matchups. I like seeing Australia play away from home with a little Qantas logo. I like the red of the Qantas on the Australian. It meshes well with the green and the gold of the trimmings of the test.
Are you saying Qantas jersey when they're in New Zealand or just away? You're just like an away series for the Qantas?
Because New Zealand's often so green, so verdant.
Contrast.
It's contrast,
yeah. You're saying that
it's similar to England.
Novel aesthetics. Real novel aesthetics.
So I'm up for that. But like a bilateral T20 series, even though this is the last one before the World Cup, it's so far before the World Cup, being like 5 months or whatever. I'm like, yeah, like it's on a watchable time, so that's good. I like seeing my team play at a watchable time. That's all good. But I was like, I'm not really into it. And then I saw some of the conversation around it, and I heard the aggressiveness in the tone of some of the commentary team, and I was like, oh, okay, well, this is now a World Cup final. This is a World Cup final for New Zealand.
Yeah.
Now, it's just a borderline disgrace that Australia don't go there. So this is a big series. I mean, in terms of, I would imagine for New Zealanders, what other series would roll up emotions other than the Australian series? Completely understand that. Just like the aggressiveness, like there's some sandpaper chat. I've seen a lot of Sonny Bill Williams chat. I'm seeing guys bring posters with Smith and Warner crying from 6 years ago. Some of the aggressiveness, like encouraging abuse of players. And I was like, this is a bit nasty. This is a little bit. It was a bit ugly, wasn't it? And so I was like, okay. I'm invested. They've got me to invest my emotions in this. I need to win every game by 1 million runs now.
And but what about when Australia does it?
No, but in the history of time, Pezza, we've been good blokes for like 15 seconds. So we're going to tell other people how to act and behave, okay?
Yeah.
Understood?
Yeah, I get it.
But did you have a similar experience where like, oh, fuck. The Kiwis are up for this, and there's some levels underneath. There's some stuff sitting under the surface there.
Yeah, man. Like I knew we were in for a good series when I turned it on, and you turn on a series for the first time, you're like, I just want to get across what it looks like. I want to see what the score, how the scores are manifesting, who's on comms. And
it's the same when you're playing a club game and you like walk out to the pitch. I just want to see what it looks like when I'm out here.
Some process going on there.
It's a deck, yeah.
I knew we were in for a good series when I heard from various commentators attempts at names: Josh Ingles, Pat Cummings, and Phil Allen. I was like, this is going to be good. Like, boys are on here.
Well, I mean, that's before we get to Sir Arthur Cook calling Shubman Gill Suleiman Gill three times without
allegedly,
3 times without being challenged.
India runs down the score. A little bit of a blip there. Suleiman Gill gets him over the line.
What a player he was.
What a player. What a player. Suleiman Gill or Shubman Ben. Yeah, so I had the same experience as you. Just like, I don't know what I'm expecting, because even like Warner had preempted that there would be abuse, because the last time Australia was in New Zealand, which was I wasn't born yet, but no, in 2016, he really copped it. And a lot of them really copped it. So it's kind of it's what they do. That's their thing. And you are watching and you think, novel 06, that's good. Quite like New Zealand. Like the way they stand up to the US, for example.
Sure.
Good model for Australia there. But then you see the abuse, and then we hear the abuse. And part of the reason you see and hear the abuse is because the commentators appear proud of it. Yeah. They kept signaling that was going on, and
how good
they seem to be. They're really getting stuck into the boys here, there was the suggestion that and this is just at Wellington, wait until they get to Auckland to Eden Park, and it just, as an Aussie, you look at it and you're like, and this is of our own making, the degradation of New Zealand cricket. Australia has been complicit in that, but it's very Mad Men, it's very Ginsberg, saying to Don Draper, I feel bad for you, and Don Draper saying, I don't think about you at all. Like, you have to imagine that's the view with the Aussie guys. Like, most of them being like, I understand there's some big brother, little brother stuff, particularly East Coast, particularly with some rugby union gear. Never seen Australia win at Eden Park, all that kind of stuff. Most of the Aussie cricketers are Aussie rules guys. Zero clue about any. Like, they will have zero clue about any New Zealand Australia rivalry. Yeah. Just place to visit, Lord of the Rings stuff. Good to go. You know.
Yeah.
With respect. Yeah. But skeletons are going to skeleton, you know, and it adds like, you got the impression like, oh, the you know, like that Edgbaston thing of like, oh, you know, mate, we're a fortress, but be careful. Aussie's like, what? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you go like, someone on Patreon said this, right? So I'm just exchanging. Like, someone just said, when it gets to that point, Australia just gets their cocks out. It just ends up, ends up become, its cocks are presented and it's 3-0 Australia.
Right.
Don't make the rules.
Yeah.
It's the truth.
It's going into the shower with your dad when you're 7. It's not a matchup. There's no matchup there.
Mate, exactly.
Why am I 7 going into the shower with my dad?
No, you can. Yeah, I don't have a boy that's 7 years old, but you get it. I don't want to say anything you say is going to get clipped up and sound bad. You know what I mean? Parents bathe with children. Parents can bathe with their children in either a bath or shower setting.
Yeah. I don't have kids though. That's the weirdest bit.
But no, it is exactly that.
I thought
when I have a shower with my sons, I do say, get in, New Zealand.
Yeah. Come on, South Island. So, I mean, I found it in a similar way where like now, like, you can go to a sports game and enjoy it however you want to enjoy it, and like let's be right about it. I mean, the amount of like abuse that touring teams have copped in Australia for the last like
100%,
100 years
from
probably.
Some of the world's greatest and dumbest coats known to man.
Everyone knows a fuckwit that goes and embarrasses themselves at a public sports event, okay? It's just like in the same way as like the Bazball stuff, like, you know, like there's no shame for England to go to India and lose. There's no shame about that. Just don't tell me how fucking good you are the entire time. In the same way I'm talking about New Zealand, like, oh, it's so lovely and friendly and welcoming and just so caring. And then we're also going to go that way as well. It's
align the brands, New Zealand. What are you?
You're fucking gaslighting me about it, okay?
I don't know. I mean, you could very much argue that about Australia as well. Blokes are good blokes. The Aussie guys, I do think they are demonstrably and bizarrely the best behaved team in international cricket and have been since Cummins was captain. Is that debatable? I'm not saying there hasn't been any indiscretion or guys getting hot under the collar, but they are not fucking doing anything on field. And now they're Warnerless as well. You know what I mean? Like, it's a bizarre thing for us.
Yeah.
They're also not riling any opposition up in the press. They're speaking, you know, magnanimously and diplomatically about all matters. Yeah. And the difference is they're also not telling us how good they are about it. They're just walking the talk.
See, I would have said before this week that maybe Sri Lanka were right up there, but then Hasaranga told the umpire to get a different job after not calling a no ball. So which is probably right to do because that was embarrassing for that umpire. But that's the sort of backdrop to what's happening in the series. I just want to give a couple of performances.
Yeah, I want to talk performance.
So Tim David coming in there, and I'm not sure what he actually finished with. He might have finished with 20 or something like that. But Australia
31 off 10.
31 off 10
in that first game.
So Australia needed like 31 off 10, didn't they? In the last 10 balls, they needed that. And
they needed fuckloads off, not a lot.
And I hadn't appreciated this, but I think a lot of the public was suggesting that Tim David was not going to be picked in the World Cup squad.
No, which one guy.
It's just one guy.
Who was a friend of our show. Probably the first guy to come on it.
Okay, well, Ed said it. Oh, Ed.
But to be fair to him, he's said, like, it's great to make mistakes in life.
Oh, yeah. And let's be honest, I've never made a mistake on this show. So I'm looking forward to carrying on that tradition. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one with Tim David because he's never played first class cricket in Australia. He's never had a state contract in Australia. He's played for the Hurricanes, right? He would play in every single international team. He would be picked in every
T20s.
team in T20s. Such as his ability, and people coo about him. He turns people into pigeons.
He's a pigeon turner.
He's a pigeon turner. When people talk about his power and what he possesses as a finisher, and it's sort of like it's. I think a lot of it's Australians understanding roles of T20 players. Like, you know, because I think I'm. There was a question put out there on different socials this week through different channels asking like, okay, what's your 15 for the World Cup? And like, I didn't see Stoinis in anyone's suggestion. And like,
really?
Yep.
Hell.
I'm talking from punters.
Okay.
Not from experts.
The great unwashed.
And like, it's just amazing because people expect like a middle order player to do what Glenn Maxwell can do, for instance. They expect you need 4 guys in middle order that can score 120 off 40 balls. And there is role players in T20s that you don't really have in ODIs or test matches. You need basically not just match win, like you need consistent long-term performers in every single game. Whereas it's harder to understand guys playing chop out overs here and there, scoring 25 off 12 as a key job in a T20 side. Do you know what I mean?
Totally.
So Tim David is very unlikely to ever score 100 for Australia because he's batting middle order. But to come in and win a game like that, that's such a specific role that only a few guys in the entire world can do. So I think it was good that he's done it for Australia because I don't think people in Australian cricket circles have really, in the public, have seen him do it before. But fuck, he's good in the IPL. But no one watches the IPL here, so, you know.
It was a big moment for him because it really spotlit like a phenomenon in Australian like public discourse. Like
which course? Sorry,
it's in Brooklyn.
Oh, okay.
It's just when you're pointing at a golf course and you're from Brooklyn.
That course? No, this course.
So this was prime time Tim David.
Yeah.
Right? Paywall. But
Patreon.com/great-cricketer.
Like Tim David is the T20 emblem of if it didn't happen in Australia in prime time, then it didn't happen.
Yeah, I like it.
Like no number of runs at the highest domestic franchise or international level, non-primetime hours, whether it's for Mumbai Indians or for Australia, like he's going to shift the dial of Australian punter perception of whether he's a good cricketer or not. And like, let's face it, he goes, like, that is the hardest voter to win. Yeah. You know, the Australian punter.
Oh, it's the Australian prime voter of all time.
The Australian prime time punter wasn't sold on Glenn Maxwell until he hit 200 red against Afghanistan with polio.
It's still it's still a bit like, what have you done for me lately though, Glenn?
No, genuinely, there are a lot of people like not sold on Maxwell for like 12 years.
Yeah.
Now, that wasn't just a prime time thing, but fuck, we index on prime time free to air, like in Australia.
That's true.
And Tim David has, as you point out, like he would walk into that very, very refined number 6 role in T20 cricket in any international, probably or franchise team across the world if he was available for them. Like he has, more than any other player in the world, maybe Andre Russell, he's got that 10 to 20 ball innings down to a fine art. He struggles with more than 20 balls. He doesn't need more than 20 balls normally, but I'm sure there's heaps of room for improvement. But I'm like, I like it. Like I'm so happy for him that he did that. Like one thing I'm liking about Australia's T20 side is that because the 50 over and test side is so set, like it's the guys, you know, they're a cabal that's done it together for years and years and years. Like T20 cricket allows Australia to shine a different kind of light on Australian cricketers, like where, you know, what are we doing vis-a-vis specialists with pipes and levers and globetrotter skills, you know, which is where David comes into play. Okay, fix up the shade of his pads would be a good start, but I'm talking like hair flowing out the back of the cap, gold chain, you know, baseball-like power, and if you miss it, he will fucking smash you.
I had the similar experience. I think he needs to grow up and get a different bat sponsor. I think it's
and that's
SS. Is that what it is? I think it's time to grow up.
That's constructive feedback
because if he's going to be a great of our white ball setup, he needs to align himself with a recognizable home brand. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a branding.
It's a branding.
We could talk to his agent.
He'd be a fascinating. I know he's followed us for years, like before he ever played for Australia, because he obviously. There was a flip that went on there. Like he would write to us, and then we started writing to him. You know, and nothing happened. No. When he was playing for Singapore, all good to go.
Boys, get me on.
Can't wait. Hey Tim, is it? Yeah, no. So I think that's some feedback. I think.
Yeah, that's some feedback.
Which I'm sure he would take on board.
Of course, I want to point out in terms of
Tim David Kookaburra.
Oh,
come on.
Okay.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah. I'm 38.
Can I have some gloves, Tim?
I want to, bust some myths.
Myth busting?
Which is actually just carrying, not for the first time, something like the hard journalistic work of Alex Malcolm. But
yeah.
There is a widespread perception that Tim David is a gold hunting T20 mercenary who has not engaged in the sacred long form pyramid of Australian cricket. He's gone down the road less travelled, and he wears that money on his necklace. He gave first class cricket as big a crack as anybody else, and nobody wanted it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he
didn't like the look of it.
He was in systems. He was there with WA. Spent time in Tasmania. Look it up with Alex Malcolm, as the Hello Sport boys would say. Dior, yeah, and yeah. So I don't know if it was with Tassie for the first class stuff. Obviously, deep research, but he's first class. Well, he had a crack at first class cricket. Yeah. It wasn't wanted. Yeah. So what's he meant to do?
Win us games in prime time.
That's right. It's like, well,
using bats that I recognise.
I appreciate that you've won us games in prime time, paywall prime time, to be fair, and I appreciate that you make millions for the Mumbai Indians, but have you done it in twos and ones? And have you done it in the Marsh Cup for WA? Have you done it at the Wagner for WA on Frogbox?
Yep.
And until you do, well, there's always going to be that little asterisk. I like, you want to do some other performances?
Nathan Ellis has to play.
Ellis
Nathan Ellis has to play.
Yeah.
Is he still with Punjab?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so he'll get we'll get into the 15 that I think anyway, if that's okay with you later. But there'll be guys that play IPL that others won't, so there'll be more of a crack given to those guys because they've been playing in the biggest tournament in the world.
Fuck, how smug is it just like knowing a little bit about T20 cricket in Australia? And you can just bet every single thing you say could be prefixed with what you got to understand about T20 cricket. It's just like,
it's as close as I'll ever get to how many fucking tests have you played.
Exactly.
How many fucking games a week have you watched? How many KO minis a week have you watched?
I watch every ball.
Good for you.
I get up from 12 till 4.
Nathan Ellis, outstanding. I think Spencer Johnson, I've had a closer look.
You had a look at it? Yeah, you like it? You like what you see?
Do I like what I see?
I like it.
I'm tucking it for seconds, Pezza.
It's like, see, the thing you got to understand about Nathan Ellis' skills, you can get under your eye line and he can undercut and whatever, and it's really important that we it's not about the Australian viable looking like an international cricketer. It's about the undercutting stuff. It's like Spencer Johnson got to play, mate. Have
you seen it in a singlet?
Have a look at it. Should be fucking around in state cricket. It's just got to play. It's got to play.
It's just got to.
Yeah.
It's got to.
He stands next to the big three. He's like, you belong, mate. I don't know what you do, but no, we know what he does.
Imagine if he was just a scorer or something.
Wow.
Just a scorer. Wow. Okay. Prejudice.
But yeah, I agree. Okay, I got a question for you.
Okay.
Steve Smith. So, probably, doesn't enhance his claims for a T20 World Cup squad, but I think again it raises good philosophical, ideological questions about Australian cricket. So, do you include? He's not in the 11, but he's not in the best 11 right now. Steve Smith.
Yeah.
Okay, but there's 4 spots.
Yes. In a 15-man squad,
playing in the Caribbean, Australia.
Yes.
They're not doing the US. We know that the decks there can be low and slow, probably akin to an IPL style deck, and I think they'll index on IPL form, by the way. But Steve Smith, if the top order or middle order might be struggling, low slow decks, slow run chases, maybe he'll bail you out. With a little bit of finesse and precision, with spinners doing the thing that they do, picking gaps, twos, that sort of twos, threes.
Yeah.
Not for me, but I'm just saying.
That's what some people would say.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. That's an argument for him.
Yeah. If you want to win a run chase in one day in 1997,
he manifestly does not have world class T20 skills in 2024, but he might be included for, if you're squad member 12 to 15, you must be bringing vibe, energy. He might bring experience, reflected glory of having won World Cups before, was in the team that won the final in 2021.
Yep.
Steve Smith, when we're watching the game at 11 a.m. or whatever the fuck it is that we'll be watching it in the Caribbean, 8 a.m., there's nothing wrong with seeing his face and seeing the shapes that he contort himself into in the field. It's a World Cup, Steve Smith World Cup. You know,
he could walk out to bat with 4 of his winners' medals.
Exactly. So there's that.
3. He's won 3 white ball medals.
I want to ask you, what are the merits of Steve Smith as an in and around the boys selection?
Yeah.
You know, he's won a World Cup. Ooze is winning in class. Yeah. But what's he bringing to the group peripherally, if not on-field results? So you're not in the first, but Steve Smith's in and around the boys. Now, what is that doing to you? What's it doing for you?
Well, you know, can he elevate Stoinis to some of his best form? Because we know that they are the main tanners.
True.
So that's something to think about. In and around the group for Smith, likes being stuck in lifts, likes eating M&Ms. Ooh, naughty.
Yeah.
That kind of gear. What else can we expect? You know, it's just...
Is it in your 15?
No. No,
neither.
It's not. No. So
it's not that easy to call though. Like that.
No.
Because they like their guys. Australia.
No,
they
big
like
time.
their guys.
Big time. So he scored 4 and 11 in these 2 games. So before the second game, this is what Andrew McDonald said. How he goes in those opportunities, I think, will dictate what happens. There's competition for places, and that's a good problem to have. We're playing him for a reason. If he wasn't in our thinking, then he wouldn't be on the plane over here. There's 20-plus players that in our thinking. We're not settled in terms of the final 15 at this stage. So I think like the pedigree of what he's achieved in cricket, he, of course, gets a crack. But I'm looking at... I wrote down the names of what I had for a 15. So Warnerhead, Marsh, Maxwell, Stoinis, Wade, David, Cummins, Stark, Zampa, Hazelwood. There's 11. Then you've got 4. Now I've got English, Short, Ellis, and either Green or Agar. And then Hardy, Aaron Hardy, Spencer Johnson, Sean Abbott, Steve Smith just miss out for different reasons. But like, okay, you're going to take a reserve keeper, and also Inglis can open at the top. Again, his best scores have been batting at 3. He can also open the batting in 1 days as well. Matt Short looks good. Chop out overs as well. Nathan Ellis, a backup bowler to the main bowlers. And then Agar is an interesting one where he would have been in the World Cup squad. In fact, he was in the World Cup squad before being injured. He's going to go over to the IPL and do net bowling to try and increase his chances of playing in the World Cup squad. He's just played in the Marsh Cup game that they've just won, which is obviously 50-over cricket and domestic cricket. And then Cameron Green's an interesting one where, like, I'm not sure how much he'd bowl, but obviously he can bowl. And if he has a bumper IPL, he's going to be in the conversation. Steve Smith's not playing in the IPL. Is he? No, he's not. He's not picked up anyone. So I don't see how he increases his chances of playing other than like vibe, or like he's just one of the best players in a generation.
World Cup winner, shapes, reflected glory, World Cups.
But I don't see how he gets in, because I don't think he's better in T20s than Inglis or Short.
Look, I want to say that that like if Steve Smith is in the 15, I am not unhappy.
Yeah,
because I like the name
Steve Smith.
Yeah, I just like that.
Yeah,
However, I think if Australia is to win the T20 World Cup, they have to go balls out. Like, their returns in T20 cricket have not been great taken as a whole. You know, they tend to me, they seem to be often just half a step behind the guys who are doing it at the very, very top level.
I saw yesterday they ranked 4th, which was hard because they play squad plays all the time and whatever. But
so I think they need to go balls out, and I think they probably need to move. I don't know, be wary of not just taking the guys, you know, who do stuff. I think you need to, you know, index higher on like specific dynamism and skills that you bring to that really, you know, unique format.
Yeah.
That said, I'm also big on like the white ball culture of the Aussie team being separate to the red ball culture. So I like Stoinis is like a spirit animal of that side a little bit. I like him going along. You know, Australia is like, it's Stoinis, it's Zampa, Wadey, and Goggles.
Yes.
You know, that I do think that's like important part.
It's important.
And then as for like, I think Matt Short has to go.
He's more versatile as well.
When I say go, that's the wrong word. Like, has to play. He has to be in that squad.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're talking Short v Smith, and maybe you're not, like, the guy is in greater form. He's more versatile in the top order.
And
he catches excellently. Chris Rhodes is the best slipper in the that he's seen, and he bowls.
Yeah.
So Short's got to play. Yeah, Ellis has got to play.
Inglis is a backup keeper and is versatile. Like they have played Wade and Inglis in the same team.
And then what do we say?
So that's one that leaves one place.
It leaves one place, right?
And that's basically
you're talking Green, Hardy.
I included Agar because you just wonder like spin is you can need more specialist spin. Agar bats, good fielder. Aaron Hardy, I've not seen enough of, but they obviously like him. But he was going to replace Stoinis in this New Zealand series because Stoinis has a back or something. So Stoinis is behind. Sorry, Hardy is behind Stoinis.
Who have you got in the 11? Like who have you got? Because I know you'll have it. Like batting 5. Because I feel like that's Stoinis. The position that's open. Yeah, so you're going to start Stoinis. I probably am too.
Yeah. Yeah.
I might have Matt Short ahead of Stoinis, but I think Stoinis is a specialist at that position, whereas Short's a top order guy.
Stoinis' bowling is underrated for chop outs. So he can open the bowling, he can bowl chop outs. He's also taken quite a few wickets.
That's why I'm not sure he needs a second
for Australia.
Because they're so well stocked with seamers, Australia.
Possibly, yeah. I mean, that's right. I mean, so Agar may be less likely. I only thought of him last night. So then it's like, so it's basically one spot. Abbott bats as well.
I wonder where Green is going to bat for RCB because you know what will happen. Like Cameron Green, I think the environment of the IPL suits him, and he'll get his chest out and his cock out, and he'll start scoring those hundreds again if they bat him in the top order. And if he does it with Kohli, he's just going to be all over the news, and it will be like, well, this kid must play. You know, now like once again, you know, Cameron Green is developing. It's a great place for him to develop, I think, for a World Cup, the IPL for Cameron Green. I can just see that as well, but it appears to me like the only
shaved head, neck tattoo.
That's what we've been calling for that, you know. But I feel like thing is, can he bat at 5? Because it's such a different position to batting in the top 3, and they look like even Mitch Marsh said that they're pretty set in the top 3, you know. I don't know. I think Spencer Johnson has to play.
Okay, well, just should we move on to the Test series?
I got something hot off the press for the Test series.
Yeah.
Neil Wagner's announced his immediate retirement ahead of the Test series.
Holy shit!
It's I'm just getting this first time emotional press conference. So no Wags. Biggest story there, of course, is his entire career, which has been excellent. I'm not sure what the reason is.
Where have you seen that?
I'll tell you the truth. I've received a Facebook DM from Aaron Gox. Thank you, Goxie.
What about foot soldiers?
I appreciate it.
Men on the ground.
I appreciate it. I just got...
Look, it does say... Is it a stitch up?
Oh, that's good. That's good. No, look, the news says here that Wagner's come to the decision after... It says, this is Wide World of Sport, saying after it hit home that he would not be considered for selection in the home side's 11. So it appears that Wagner...
That's surprising.
Had been told he wasn't going to play, so he's retired.
He played the last game.
So... yeah, it's interesting. I wonder whether they told him that anyway, that it was going to be his last game. Anyway,
now, that's
they might be elevating this Will O'Rourke character.
Yeah, okay.
Just first thought,
it's just a character.
That's right. It's all a TV show for me.
We're playing against the computer. Okay, before you mentioned Alex Malcolm just stealing his work, I'm going to steal Alex Malcolm's work again.
Nice.
Here's what he said.
Thanks, Alex.
New Zealand have won 1 test against Australia since 1993. And in 10 tests at home this century, they've lost 9 and drawn 1, where it rained. So basically, like, we never go there. In Alex's piece, it's on ESPN Cricket Info. I highly recommend that you give it a read because it's really good to set up the series. But in Alex's piece, he goes on through what was happening and what's happened in the 8 years since 2016 when Australia was last there. Corey Anderson was playing for New Zealand. He's now qualified to play for the United States. So he'll be playing for the US in the World Cup in the first game against Canada there, which will be there in Dallas. Adam Voges scored a double ton in Wellington in 2016. He's just won his 7th domestic title as a coach. Stark and Cummins debuted in 2011. They've played 147 tests combined and have never played a test in New Zealand. So, point being, we never go there. It's going to be good, but usually, despite New Zealand having a generational side and have been awesome, they've won a World Test Championship in between all of this, of course, in 2021. They seem to never play well against Australia. I remember they came here in 2020, just after 2019-20, just after 2019 Ashes, and there was such a big series. Heaps of Kiwis flew over for the Boxing Day test. I thought it was going to be like, this is our time to really give, Big Brother a good game. And it was, it ended up being dreadful. It was 3-0 in the end. But point being, New Zealand have got a good team. And they have had good teams for ages, but their record against Australia is oddly poor. But at the moment, they are, of course, leading the World Test Championship table. They've got a 75% win percentage, but they've played 4 games. India next, and then Australia third. Just looking at New Zealand's test schedule before the World Test Championship final in June. I think it's going to be in 2025. They've got 2 tests against Australia at home. Then they do a bit of an Asian circuit. They got 1 test in Afghanistan, 2 tests in Sri Lanka, 3 tests in India. And then next summer, they've got 3 tests against England at home. So they've only got 5 tests at home in the next 12 months. I think 2 summers, basically. I suppose they've already played a couple of this time around. But, you would think that if I can get a couple of wins against Australia here, it sets them up nicely to get themselves in the mix for the World Test Championship final again. And also it would set Australia back, because I feel like Australia would want to try and get that game back they lost against the West Indies at the Gabba there. They've obviously got, they do a bit of an Asian circuit as well in the beginning of next year. They go to Sri Lanka and somewhere else I've forgotten. Anyway, of course, I have India at home. So, but our first test sold out weeks in advance in Wellington. I'm looking forward to it big time. Obviously, we'll be there for the second test in Christchurch. So, if you see us,
I can't wait for that show. Could be anything.
Great fun.
Could be anything. There's a lot of players I like in the New Zealand team, and I'm not saying that just to be nice. Like Rachin Ravindra.
Right.
Wow.
He's 50. He's got a quad. Devon Conway's got a thumb, so he might not play. Rachin Ravindra. Yeah. Anyway, sorry,
silly buggers. So Rachin, Kane Williamson, Daryl Mitchell. Yep. That's hot. That's 3, 4, 5. I think. That's really good. I like it.
That is good.
And the seam, like Matt Henry comes in hard. Southey will nip it about. Mm-hmm. It's not bad. It's just not a bad side. Can definitely do a job on Australia, particularly at home, and with how boisterous their home crowd is. It's really difficult to play there. Our team is our team. Mm-hmm. Big question is whether we can bat, because we've not been able to bat for a little while. Yeah. Like guys need runs, and we put that unders summit, I think, like in a big way down to fatigue, because the Coats haven't stopped playing for a long time. So, have they had enough rest? Have they got enough carrots?
Boys are playing golf this week. That helps.
Okay. Oh, all right. Yeah. I think if Australia has carrots, they win. That's just my analysis. And the other thing I'd like to say is, and I'm sheepish about doing this every time, my father is coming to Christchurch. If anybody has a ticket, if anyone has a ticket for Saturday, just general admission, just one for X1.
That's exciting. Dad's coming.
My father is coming day 1 and 2. So,
nice.
He's got one to day 1, but day 2 sold out. It's dress up day, you see.
And what's he going as?
Let me know what he needs to dress as.
Sonny Bill Williams.
So anyway, if anyone's slide into a DM, I love my dad to go. He's cool either way, but yeah.
Well, I'm looking for. I mean, I agree with you. I think fundamentally Australia probably just has better players, but carrots, and also New Zealand fucking up for it.
Well said.
Grand final.
Yep. New Zealand well prepared, well conditioned. Obviously knocked over South Africa 5s.
Yep.
A while ago there, and you're exactly right. It's carrots. It'll come down to carrots.
Yep. All right, should we talk about India and England, that test series? We obviously have Barney Ronay on the show. We spoke to Barney for about 20, 25 minutes, something like that, to get the vibe about Bazball. But what happened there in the 4th test? Well, of course, India ended up winning the game by 5 wickets and therefore lead the series 3-1 heading into the final test match, which starts
next Thursday?
Yes. The day before.
7th.
The Christchurch test.
Yeah, yes, that's when we're doing our live show.
We'll
do the show.
Should be fun.
Let's do the show.
Yeah.
Have some non-alcoholic beverages and then record at midnight New Zealand time.
12:30, something like that. Yeah.
So we might just have like a phone with the game going while we're doing the live show, just sort of keep across every ball we do.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
Anthony Peace for TalkSport.
England batted first and made 353 in Ranchi. Roots got 122 red. Ollie Robinson scored his first test 50, 58. Folkes 47, Crawley 42. Jadeja took 4 for 67. India then replied with 307. They were at 177 for 7 at one point. In fact, when I say at one point, literally at that point. Jaiswal made 73, and then the wicketkeeper Jarrell, playing his, that must be his second test match, scored 90, which was crucial to get India to 307. Shoaib Bashir, 5 for 119, his first ever first-class fourfer. He now has more wickets for England than he does for Somerset. So the lead there in the first innings was 46. And then in the third innings, England were out for 145. Ashwin took 5 for 51. Kuldeep 4 for 22. Zach Crawley made 60. So he made 100 runs for the game. Not bad from Crawley on a very difficult deck, you would say. India, therefore, needed to chase 192. India were 120 for 5 in the chase at one point, but then Shubman made 52 red. Suleiman, made 52 red. Jarrell, 39 red. Jarrell was player of the match. He was fantastic. Rohit made 55 earlier on. Shoaib Bashir took 3 for 79, so he took 8 for the game. That's what happened in the game. And just once again, India too good at home. 17 consecutive home test series. Robert Sharma seemed annoyed that it just was sort of a given that India win these series. England have pushed India in basically all test matches, including even the test match they lost last time by 434 runs. In the first innings there, England were 2 for 220 behind on India's first innings of 450 or whatever it was. So, look, it wasn't a done deal or anything like that, but I'm just saying, like, England have had moments in every game and they pushed them. So it's been a really enjoyable series, and the cricket has been good and interesting. But once again, India just have better players, particularly at home. That's basically what it's come down to.
Yeah, for a team that is barely part of the conversation, India's done very well to win the series 3-1. I think that ultimately the old blokes in Jadeja, Rohit, Ashwin did enough when they needed to, and young guys, Jarrell, Shubman, Sarfraz in the third test, came through. And India just about got themselves there. I thought England pushed them, and their style of cricket presented problems for Rohit's captaincy, but nevertheless the things that India can rely upon, which is playing well in home conditions, and their spin triumvirate, which when you include Kuldeep as well, who's been really valuable to them. There was just enough moments of class from those big guys to get themselves there. But yes, it's one of those, 3-1 is objectively what it is, like what the score is. India had done enough. England, frustratingly capitulated, in big moments. I do think their style of play does lend itself to that at times, but similarly, and probably more often, it puts them in winning positions. So thankfully, because we've done these dailies every day where it's just so tempting to talk about England's rhetoric, we have outsourced the Bazball analysis to Barney Ronay. So I don't think we need to, kick him again, other than to say, I agree with our YouTube commenter who says that if we're going to have cameras in the trucks, let's have cameras on the cameras and then cameras on those cameras. And then just unleash a big old dog whistle.
Mate, obviously the whole thing, like India have been full value for their 3 wins. And then the game they lost, Ollie Pope has just played one of the literal all-time greatest innings to elevate England to win. And that just seems to be what it has to be for teams to win away from home against one of the bigger nations. It's like, look at the guys that India are missing. Shami, Bumrah missed this test match. Kohli the whole series. KL Rahul the last 2 matches. Jadeja didn't play the second test match. Ashwin was unavailable for half a test match.
This was the time to get him.
This is the time to get him.
It's always the way, mate.
India they've just played so well. They've just got such good players, and like to win away from home. India especially. India now have got this record for the last 10 years. It puts them in the category of one of the toughest tours to have ever existed in the history of cricket. You think about like the Caribbean, the West Indies in the 60s and 70s, Australia in the 90s and 2000s, and now this Indian team. It's right up there with like just one of the hardest places in the history to win a game of cricket, let alone a test series. And fundamentally, I've said this before, England aren't a bad team. I don't think they're a very good team. I think they're pretty good. They'll win their games at home. They're a much bigger non-win, not a defeat for them, was the Ashes. I mean, like just to not win a home Ashes is is the metric.
Oh, yeah, and that's not really been the analysis from most people even here or there. Like, I think Australia getting away with 2-2 was a good result for them. You know, it's really difficult to win there, even though they were 2-0 up. Yeah, look, I think England are under their leadership and style of play, their team is better than the sum of their parts. You know, there is no doubt that they've progressed and become better. It's the suck off around it that sucks. I've said that 1,000 times. So, shout out to Shoaib Bashir, by the way, who many people will point to his county record and being a very, young, inexperienced county player. But did you know that he actually played Wheelie Bin Shires cricket last year in Sydney for Linfield? Wheelie Bin, extremely harsh, derogatory and unnecessary from me, and I withdraw it, sort of. So
average 14.
Average 14, I think 20. Shout out to Dani Saeed, who told me this at Crikey. I don't have his numbers in front of me, and if I did, that'd be concerning. But yeah, he's you can see it on Play HQ, which we'll be speaking about soon. One of the things you can see. So, harsh. Hey, James speaks good, well about Play HQ, but
speaks good.
Ooh, he can't read good. Hello, Mr. Kearns. I want money now. Me sick. It just doesn't go to show that one of the only ways to really achieve respect in Test cricket is, one, to monopolise all the money between three countries and be one of those three countries. That's the first thing you can do. Then the second thing you can do to achieve respect is to win away in one of those countries. And I think in the last, I'm going to say 10 years, only India has done that away in Australia. And when they beat Australia both times, no excuses, India wins, superior team both occasions. Australia had mitigating circumstances there, which it doesn't take away. I'm just saying that India had mitigating circumstances this time as well, which gave England an opportunity to do it, and they missed it. You need, in so many ways, it's kind of sad in this sense as well, or it makes it interesting. I don't know. There needs to be some kind of perfect storm to knock off one of those big teams when they're at home. You need them to be in a psychologically difficult place or in a downward trend. You need old players, you need guys to be missing, and you need to be fucking firing. And then you probably scrape in by a bee's dick.
Like in 2017, what was it? I was saying 18, 19.
17, 18 was, is that right? 18, no, 18, 19 is India out here. Yeah.
So in that moment, Finch has opened the batting, Australia in complete disarray.
Yeah, no Warner, no Smith.
Sandpaper, of course. And so then India had that moment, and
they take it.
And the boys, they take it. Hanscom was batting in the middle order at that time. Anyway.
And that's when you had... was that? Oh no! I was going to say that Australia was struggling at that time.
But the time after, when India won, fair play. It was just won that series. But then you think about
what was going on with Australia. At that
England
time.
When Australia went there to England in 2019, the chat was like England so tired after the World Cup, and then Australia got themselves into a lead. Then had fucking Bradman batting at 4 in that series, and even then it was still 2-2. It's so hard to win away from home. England at this time had a chance, even in this game. They had that lead. They had India 177 for 7 after scoring 350 in the first innings, and then India just executed their skills better and then rolled England for 145 in the third innings of the game, got themselves over the line. That's just there's no shame in it at all in losing to India there. But stop sucking yourselves off. All right, here's Barney.
Well, for the first time in a little while, we have Barney Ronay, chief sports writer at The Guardian, post-Ranchi on the bell of India versus England, of course. Barney, does this sting, given India is, unimpeachable final boss at home, and England engineered themselves into several winning positions, both in this test and in the series. Have England done very well here, or is it going to be a 4-1 loss to India B?
Well, I think it might be one of those 4-1 losses where you've actually won. I mean, it's fine. It's fine if India. I'm pleased for India. It's good to play conventional cricket, and if you're happy winning that way, that's fine. I mean, obviously. This won't go down as a Bazball test. There may be an asterisk in the record books. Yeah. A conventional game of cricket was played. Conventional choices were made. People batted slowly. I guess it counts. No, I mean, India didn't run towards the danger. That's fine. They could have done. That's their choice. I think England. I think you have to accept that India are an exceptionally good team. I thought England were just going to be rolled over in every game in this series. Obviously, they lost 400 runs in the last game, but they then came back, and this was a really good test. I guess it was lost on the third day where they lost 7 wickets for 35, and then India were 40 for none at the close, which is quite a hard kind of net wickets and run gain in one session to get round. And India also had players missing too. But Ben Stokes said at the end, what did he say? I wrote it down here. He said, look at the scoreboard. India won by 5 wickets. That doesn't give enough credit to the game. So he's already not. I mean, I'm agreeing with him. I don't accept that 5 wickets reflects the game. I don't think the game's been given enough credit by that. He also said that the way England play has just brought out so much talent in their team and also in India's team, which yes. I would agree with. So while India obviously deserve credit for winning, everyone's a winner here. I'd say it's a game where there was no actual loser, and that's fine. So maybe I don't know. Maybe it's a draw. I mean, does that sound fair enough? Series still alive.
I'm sure we'll hear it. Yeah.
But no, I mean, this was a good game for England. And all joking aside, I think they've actually done really well in this series. If you can step through, there's 2 levels of the whole series. There's the kind of invisible level of stuff people say around the top of it, basically stuff that Ben Duckett says, which you have to kind of wade through and try to find your truth or a truth or some kind of truth. And I think beyond all the stuff people say, England have actually played really well. And there wasn't a lot of Bazball in this game apart from in the field. I think Stokes, again, captained really well, although he'll be criticised a little bit for being perhaps a bit over tinkery and not opening with James Anderson with the new ball. The young spinner's obviously not really used to bowling with it. So India got off to quite a good start, which was kind of decisive in the end. So maybe you'd say he could have done that more conventionally. But of course, as we know, you're not allowed to criticise. If you've enjoyed any of the good bits, you cannot criticise any of the bad bits. That's a rule. I don't know why. I don't know why it's a rule, but people say it all the time, so that's a rule. So for the first time in anything ever in the history of human culture, we cannot say anything about the bad bits. If there is one good bit, we acknowledge. So I'm going with the cult take that was all fine and that was all just part of secretly winning this series 3-1.
Barney, I don't want to get into, maybe the real Bazball was the friends we made along the way kind of mindset. But if I could ask you to put the finger on the pulse of the nation of cricket fandom in the UK, where you're coming into this series, like there's obviously no shame to losing to India in India, which is just one of the hardest tasks to win a series there in the 140-year history of this stupid game. But like England have been in every single test match, even the test match where they lost by 434 runs. It still felt like that was a good game, and England were in it. And so, like, is it when you think about where England were at the end of Silverwood and Root's reign, do you think that most people will be like, you know what, if this series ends 3-1, 3-2, 4-1, like they have played well, but this is like the first time where like you can't bullshit your way around like, no, we didn't lose. I know we're trying to do it now, but like, because they factually lost. But do you think the fandom are like, no, I'm happy with this. This is decent.
Yeah, I mean, England factually lost. That's true. But, and it's a big but those are just words. What do words really mean? And words and numbers. No, I think, to be fair, they have played really well. They're not a very good team. They're not. They're just not a very good team. They have a 42-year-old seam bowler who's their best bowler. They've got Ollie Robinson here bowling 74 mile an hour no balls, and he hasn't played a game since July. I don't really know what's happening there. the game is not in a great state, frankly, in England. And towards the end of the Silverwood Root era, people talk about Test cricket sort of dying, and it's always been dying, hasn't it, since they first burnt some stumps in the Victorian age? It's been dying, but you kind of started to actually believe, well, okay, we talk about it enough. It really is going. And just any sign of life, I'm grateful for any. At my age, I'm grateful for any sign of life. And I think that the real question is, why don't England produce more and better cricketers? Why aren't they better at Test cricket anyway? Every time they win a game, it is treated as a miracle. Stokes has pulled off a miracle. It really shouldn't be. They have a lot of resources. They play a lot more Test cricket than anyone else. They should be really good. Although, frankly, it's been like that since I was a kid, apart from a few brief sort of spells in the middle during the Duncan Fletcher era and what have you. So it's not a miracle that they win games. It shouldn't be. The real problems in English cricket are the pathway, talent development. I mean, Shoaib Bashir is the case in point. He was rejected by Surrey as a kid. I mean, actually, I saw him bowl a lot as a teenager because he played with my son in the junior levels at Surrey. So I watched him in a really dingy, dark, cold hall bowling a mat in an empty net while a bunch of really bored-looking blokes in tracksuits watched him. And he was always, the kids always said, oh, he's the best spinner, he's a good spinner. This is literally a year and a half ago. He was released by Surrey. You got no future in professional cricket. We don't see it. Went around minor counties, literally playing, I'd say, 18 months ago in games really on just scrappy pitches, nobody watching, Buckinghamshire against Bedfordshire. He's still playing that kind of cricket. And it was really a couple of games. He had a under-18s cup game. He took 5 wickets against Somerset under-18s, and they thought, hang on, that guy's quite good. And then Stokes obviously saw him on Twitter bowling to Alistair Cook. And the difference between what people see, Stokes understands the elite level, thought, well, this kid's obviously got something, you can see he has now, but he could have quite easily been lost to the game. Basically because he doesn't bat much, he's not a clubbable guy, he's a pretty serious young man. And at that lower level, you've got to shout to make a lot of noise to get through, and that wasn't him. So I think his emergence is really interesting. It's not necessarily that he's going to be a world-class bowler now. I was talking to a former professional cricketer yesterday. He said, this guy didn't have much of a first-class career, but said, on my debut, I took 4 wickets and got 4 Test batsmen out. And I thought I was going to be the next big thing, but it turned out I wasn't. It's really hard. And you can do that in India on that pitch, but it's just so difficult to turn that into a consistent, to be an Ashwin, to keep doing it year after year after year. So who knows what happened to him? I don't want to build him up, but the fact that it was decided he didn't have a career in professional cricket is really the issue with English cricket, rather than Ben Stokes and the England team acting like teenagers, on a year off, who've just met the guy on the beach in spandex trousers who's talking about Timothy Leary and blowing their minds, who is, of course, in this situation, Brendan McCullum.
To that end, with the emergence of Shoaib Bashir and England as a Test team achieving things that they haven't recently been able to do, if you do wade through the bullshit that you were talking about, the zealotry and the ideologues and the evangelism and all of the corollary cult stuff that seems to come with the style of cricket they play, if you can wade through it and it isn't part of it, that axis of Key and Stokes and McCullum, do they represent some kind of way forward for England cricket to you? Is the style that they're playing as an international men's team enough to galvanise, mobilise, amplify the best of England cricket, or is that just elite level pro sports mind stuff, and it doesn't really address what's actually going on underneath?
No, but the style and the environment is really good. It is good. It's been such a nasty, cruel place at times. Hierarchy in English cricket can be really horrible, and it's been very hard for talented players to express themselves. So for all the kind of joshing at Stokes, I think his ability to be kind and encouraging to young players is a massive thing in English society. People that aren't like that, this country is not nice to people often in hierarchical situations like sports teams and I think it's great. Actually, that environment is great, but it's not. Yeah, it's not a pathway thing. It kind of. I often think it's a bit like the expression of the end of something. I mean, what's basically happened is Stokes is the most powerful person in English cricket by miles. There's nobody can really say anything to Stokes. He's the last celebrity. He's the last crossover person. He's the last person people have heard of. He's paid more than anyone's ever been paid. The administrators used to have quite sort of serious roles of power in English cricket, and you knew who they were. You knew the chairman of selectors was a big deal. They're not anymore. Whatever Stokes says goes, basically. So you've got this kind of Caesar situation. You've got this Caesarian leader where the entire empire is going to be bent to your character. All the faces of Rome were defined by the vices of the emperor at that time. Narcissism, whatever. In Stokes' case, it's this kind of I'm going to heal the pain of my childhood spent playing this horribly vicious game by making a nice atmosphere. And that's become the thing that defines everything in English cricket. It's known by this word Bazball now, because his personality is so dominant, his celebrity is so dominant, but that's all we talk about. If you take him out of English cricket now, I don't even know I can't remember what it's supposed to be about. What do we talk? If you just erase Stokes, what is it again? It's Lords, the Oval, and Ollie Robinson. Like, there's just a huge vacuum without him. That we're so sort of enthralled to this man and his personality because he's such a likable guy, and because I have to say a lot of the journalism around him is as enthralled to him as his team. You're embedded with the England team. You're dependent on Stokes to get your message across because he is the amplifier. So it's very hard to not be sort of swirled along with it. I don't know if it's a long-term plan. I don't even know how much longer he will be there, because this obviously takes a huge amount out of him. His body has been knackered. He seems to have got a bit fitter. But the mental exhaustion of doing this all the time, carrying everything, is obviously really tangible. He's obviously having the time of his life as well, and you earn £1 million a year every year you do it. But I don't know if it's a long-term plan. It feels a little bit like you're throwing the last of the ancestral furniture onto the fire and watching it blaze, as the roof caves in. But it is fun to watch, undoubtedly.
Australia and England and India have this same thing where England and Australia have the same thing where basically the two biggest tests are India away and then the Ashes away. Those are the ones where, like, you basically, if you win that, then that's the marker of how good your team is. Now, England, despite they'll play 17 tests this year, I'm not sure how many they've already played. These might be the first ones this year they've played. Is that right? Yeah. So they still have another 14 tests or 13 tests to play this year. They'll probably smash everyone at home, as teams tend to happen anyway. But then the next big test for this axis of power, as we're talking about, is Australia away. So, I mean, England must be like so disappointed they've got to wait 18 or nearly 2 years to get the chance to test themselves again in the biggest moment, because they have been close in this series to scale the mountain that no one's done in 10 or 12 years or whatever it's been. So that, like, in the camp, I know they're going to say, like, no, it's all good times. We're going to play golf in Dubai now for 2 weeks or whatever. But like they must be bitterly disappointed that they've let this one go.
Yeah, I'm sure they are. And I think that the challenge is going to be to keep the vibe high, the energy high, because, like you say, that Stokes can still be there when they go to us. I'm sure he wants to be. I mean, the last ball was so miserable for everyone. It really was. I mean, the stuff we don't know about that went on behind the scenes, I think, was really quite heinous. We were still semi-COVID lockdown, weren't we? And it was, it was horrible. It was. Do you remember the Hobart game was just one of the bleakest looking things I've ever witnessed. The final wicket, Ollie Robinson wandering across the stumps, and everybody just so unhappy. I think they got Sam Billings in just to try and cheer everyone up because he's quite lively. That was basis for his selection. So I think that was also part of what's happening now. There was an idea that this is going to die. We're all going to die doing this if we don't just try to be cheerful. But whether they can sustain this energy to that point, I'm not really sure. They play they played a series that you'd expect them to win this summer. It's Sri Lanka and West Indies at home, I think, which is kind of, Ollie Robinson 7 for 30. People who, ball jagging around is a completely different game. This and Australia were the big things, and I think the 50 over World Cup was as well. If you bundle that into it, on the face of it, it's actually been a pretty disappointing few months. Of a kind of. I'm not sure they've always judged conditions well. I'm not sure some of the basic stuff has been done that well. There have been oversights and things that Rob Key will admit to that have sort of gone wrong in just covering the bases. Not so much in the Test tour, but at times you felt it's been a little bit skin of your teeth. And yeah, it is, for all the sort of optimism, it is a massive opportunity missed because India were not that strong here. They are missing players. I'm not sure that the batting is that good below the openers. There's I don't know. I think England really worked out Sarfaraz Khan in this game in a really interesting way. I don't know if you watched that period of play where they know he wants to rotate the strike, and Stokes did this brilliant thing with his field where he put them back just at the right distance to encourage, go on, just drop it in there. And Sarfaraz looked utterly freaked out by the end of it. It was somebody bullying an opposition batsman with his spinners, which I've never seen from an England captain before. So there was an opportunity there, but in the end they just weren't good enough. For all the talk, India's skill was greater in this Test, and in Dhruv Jurel, I think he's a fantastic cricketer. Have you seen the story about him and his dad? One of my favourite.
Just caught it before we got on from your piece.
Yeah, the dad who didn't know he was playing cricket, who forbade him to play cricket, who gave up for a couple of years. I mean, for a cricket dad like that, what if the whole world had cricket dads like that? What a happier place it would be.
Yeah, it is a contrast. You were talking about this beautiful story about his dad, saying there's a guy with your name who seems to have scored runs, even though he'd forbade his son, and Dhruv didn't want to say that it was indeed him. We were just on our daily suggesting that Dhruv Jurel also was the dad of India right now and came home and, Shubman Gill was suckling on his teat. So slightly different kind of analogies being used and pictures being painted, but all landing the same way. I just want to feature this, Barney. I don't really know how to ask, but this England team is so fascinating because the cricket they play is compelling. They challenge conventions and norms of the game. Stokes is a really dynamic captain, particularly in the field. The discourse supporting the team from a lot of the journalists is at acolyte levels at times. You can marshal so many statistics to back up this team being great where it was and where it's going. Ben Stokes has a higher win percentage as captain than Mike Brearley, who's regarded as the great mind of English cricket. And they're just 8th on the World Test Championship, got smashed in the World Cup. India is India. Everyone sort of loses there, so that will be brushed aside. And then the team will do some incredible things this summer to some minnows who are deeply under-resourced. And I just think the messaging and the movement of Bazball will just continue to snowball and grow, even though the objective facts of it are lots of losses in cricket.
Yeah, the win percentage thing is a load of nonsense because it used to be the case that everybody you played was kind of on a level playing field. I mean, Zimbabwe were pretty good, whereas now England should be beating everybody except India and Australia away. Really, that's what you should aim for. You're playing teams who've just got nothing and whose players aren't there, playing in franchises. So win percentage is a load of nonsense. And winning in Pakistan when they just haven't played tests at home for ages. I mean, it was good, but it wasn't the kind of revelatory thing it was made out to be. The thing about following them is hilarious. I really enjoyed the Joe Root shot for Roray. I just love the Bazball response. It's not just a bad shot; it's the worst shot anyone, even the bad stuff, is just so massive and so dominating of the skyline. It's the worst shot ever. And in fact, every time a Bazball batsman gets out, it's the worst shot anyone has ever played. And the good shots are the best shots anyone has ever played. And if you can't understand that, I feel sorry. I wish you could see that, If you could just see the extremes. Yeah, I mean, it's incredible. I don't know where it will end. It needs a good ending. Something has to happen to go out in the right way. I don't really know how. But the results haven't been that good, really, in the last year. So it's obviously not going to be result-based. It's going to be about feelings and as Ben said, finding ways to make it quite clear that the score does not always reflect the game, which is going on behind the game.
Barney Ronay, always great to chat. Thanks so much for your time. Very generous of you to give it on the bell with such a stinging loss post-Ranchi. Always appreciate you being on the show.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you very much to Barney for joining us. Great to have Barney back on the show after being so long. But now, Pez, we're going to talk to James Allsopp, who is Cricket Australia Executive for Community Cricket.
So he's a honcho, James Allsopp, like a year or two older than us. He came into our studio and looked $1 million, as you should, as an executive.
He's really doing something with his life.
He is. Then you just have a look at yourself and you're like, wow, okay.
My band can still make it, Dad.
But no, it was very cool to talk to him. The reason we had him in, and you'll hear this in the chat, is that a couple of things were said about Play HQ a week or so ago, a couple of weeks ago, and CA to their credit called and like, well, can we have a chat about that? Like, can we get a say? And we're like, yeah, absolutely, 100%. And like, to James's credit, and we know like Play HQ is the bane of a lot of people's existence, but I think it was good of him to turn up to chat about it. But we also figured like it's not just about, all right, defend Play HQ. It's about this guy's the head of community cricket in Australia. We talk about that. So we talk broadly about community cricket, club cricket, future, and he gives some pretty interesting views on how Cricket Australia sees it, what's coming up next, what are some of the challenges, etc. So hope you enjoy the chat.
Here he is right now. Here's James Allsopp.
It's with great excitement and gratitude we welcome a man who not only looks after the cricket so many of us play around Australia, but was a formidable player himself. I'm talking young Bankstown first grade captain when Sydney Test cricket was the best amateur competition in the world. That's what we told each other at the time. I'm talking New South Wales 17s, New South Wales 19s, maybe New South Wales Colts. Both of us, as in TGC and Cricket Australia, have been trying to tee up this chat for a little while because this is the honcho of community cricket in Australia. And what is TGC if not a crooked, sometimes perverse mirror or window into that world? Cricket Australia must be avid listeners to TGC because I got a call a week or so ago saying, you've said some stuff, we'd love a chance to chat. And we were like, hell yes. So this is awesome. I think it's great you're here, James. This is Discourse. This is connecting with the punter. So with that in mind, very warm welcome to Cricket Australia's Executive General Manager of Community Cricket and a guy who looks great in a suit.
Bag of fruit.
James Allsopp. James, welcome.
Thanks, Sam. Thanks. You guys, good to be here. And feelings mutual. Massive fan of the show and love what you guys have done for cricket. And looking forward to the chat.
All right, name one episode. No,
I think that was one on Play HQ last week.
Here we go. Good. That's great. Let's ease into it. This isn't the Simon Kaddish live show where we just got straight into the main point.
Yeah, that was quite aggressive in hindsight, yeah.
How can we explore community cricket without evaluating your own career?
Yeah.
Before we run the rule over it ourselves, like, how would you describe your own cricket career?
I was a really good wicketkeeper, and then blokes like Adam Gilchrist and Brad Haddon, like selfish guys, came along and was so good at batting that made me realise that I wasn't good enough at batting to go any further. So I applied my trade at Bankstown and had lots of fun. But good wicketkeeper, solid lower order batter, but not quite good enough with the bat to go any further.
Now you are an executive of cricket, but you can also catch, which is quite an oxymoron. Yeah, like that's a huge test. Someone in cricket that can actually catch a ball. You would have played in the era of the War Brothers.
Yeah, I did.
Did you play under Steve? Was Steve Waugh the captain of Bankstown?
Did he play under you?
So I debuted at 16. I got photos at home with this stupid blonde peroxide hair, I'm sure
style of the time.
Yeah, it was the style of the time.
Bankstown too.
What an idiot. And my second ever game in first grade as a 16-year-old, I played with Steve and Mark Waugh.
Right.
So I've got some great photos at
Okay.
home sitting there with, just deer in headlights, two of your idols, and getting to go on the same field. I batted that game with Steve Waugh. I think he might have got 80 or something like that. And he came out and I walked out and he sort of said a couple of things like, I don't even know, to be honest, like get your iron. And I think I nicked the second ball, but still can say I batted with Steve Waugh. But then Mark Waugh retired from, I think got dropped for Australia, but he was still playing for New South Wales for a couple of years. And it might have been 2 years, if not, it was definitely 12 months. He captained Bankstown first grade. So I played a year under Mark as captain when I must have been about 18 or 19s. He stood at sort of second slip and was catching as good then as he was in his peak. So, yeah, very, very lucky to get to play with two of the greats of the game for a long period of time.
Well, let's just stick with that for a second.
Yeah, let's.
So juniors at 2.
Yeah.
And you're keeping.
I got Ken Hall at 1. Now
Run us through. So you're saying a lot of names where Higgins and I know this stuff intimately, but a lot of people will be listening, particularly in places like, Hyderabad, who will be like Ken Hall, not quite across it.
So Ken Hall, so if I go back to my first grade game, Ken Hall would have been probably 50, if not close to 50, and I played as a 16. Apparently it was the biggest disparity between, like, age gap between two players in a team at that time. And I actually just ran into Ken at the airport like 2 days ago. He was coming back from a veterans tournament where he must be in the over 90s or something now.
So you're 16, Ken Hall's 50, Mark Waugh's
it'd be
late 30s?
Yeah, mid-30s.
Mid-30s. Okay.
late.
What's the chat?
Yeah. So what are you learning?
Yeah, what do you
So Ken was a better catcher than Mark. That shows.
Wow.
But I reckon the
Bankstown
reason I
stuff,
probably
yeah.
got some accolades with the gloves is because I only had to catch the ones right near me. I didn't have to dive because Ken would swallow it or Mark would swallow it, and I just had to catch the feathers. So it made me look better. I didn't need to dive because I got Ken Hall standing behind me. But no, it was an amazing time. And then that team sort of had people like Wayne Holsworth and David Friedman, Scott Thompson, just legends of the game and sort of were leading contributors to the success of Bankstown during that period.
Yeah, I like how you're mentioning those names. Like it's like that meme now of like men just have fun by naming old players to each other.
One of the best things ever.
I could do that with Bankstown Greenshield stuff. I don't want the AFP to turn up, but this is on Crick Info. You're the youngest regular first grader in Sydney in 2001 too. Like, and you're being very humble about your own career. Like, what do you think it is about Australian, like that uniquely Australian phenomenon where, like, you basically have to underplay your own career unless you've played 100 tests?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good question.
Like you've batted with Steve Waugh, you've captained the Bankstown side, you've played under Mark Waugh, 17s, 19s, strong time for New South Wales cricket, and it's like, like James Brayshaw commentates, right?
You look another way, like youngest player and all the things you spoke about, but didn't go on and play first class cricket. So maybe they got it wrong when I was younger that it wasn't as good as they thought it was going to be. Or something like that. But
still got some good kit.
But nonetheless, I look back and I had an awesome time. And grade cricket was like, it was different. I think the big difference between grade cricket back then and what it is now is the players that we're talking about played. Like people talk about the standard of Premier or grade cricket has deteriorated. My personal view is the only reason it has deteriorated somewhat is because the Mark Waughs or the Scott Thompsons or David Friedmans, if they weren't playing for Australia or New South Wales, they'd play a lot more for their grade club, and that would obviously strengthen the whole competition. I think that's a big difference now. So, and it's going to be harder now with more T20 cricket, seeing those professional players playing as much is probably something that we're not going to see again. But you look back and if we strolling down memory lane here, it was an awesome time. Every weekend you'd come against probably some kind of first class cricketer. Everyone had like seriously fast bowlers, and I remember 16 and 17. I was so nervous every game. I was genuinely scared sometimes. I remember we played an attack against, I think it was Mossman. That big guy called Phil Alley. He was
tall left arm.
7 foot. And Trent Johnson, who was a really good cricketer and just had a mouth on him and made you feel really, really scared. And Warwick Hadlin, who could swing it around corners, and you go out to bat and like you had massive imposter syndrome. And it probably held me back from going and playing more cricket because I think I probably, going back to the original question, I probably doubted my own ability, particularly with the bat when I was young, and maybe needed to back myself more.
Should we use that as a leapfrog and talk about grade cricket now? Because my experience, I stopped playing.
Segue, if you will.
Thank you, and I will.
And I will.
When I was 30 or 31 my last year of grade cricket, and I felt so old playing grade cricket. Now, like when I started, when I was 18 or 17 or 18, whatever it was, it felt like there were heaps more guys in their 30s. And that could just be like a high school thing where you remember guys in year 12. Everyone must have been 9 foot tall, but you were just smaller. So I'm not sure if that's true, but like, is it the case that grade cricket's way younger than what it used to be because society has changed? People they go to uni and they start working full time, it just becomes harder.
Yeah, I mean, it hasn't changed dramatically. Like the data hasn't shown that there's a big age difference. The big difference is what I spoke about before. Like guys that were playing international cricket or first class cricket, they'd come back and play grade cricket, which sort of pushed everyone back down. So you'd have a lot of those older guys in the middle of their career still playing, and that's just not the case these days. I think no doubt like busy lifestyles and having families and all that's changed it, but I don't think that's a new thing. I think that was always happening when we were younger. I just think the big difference was people that were the top of the tree in terms of first class cricketers were coming back and playing grade cricket, and that it's very rare that they have the opportunity. So
like the international schedule has affected the grassroots because the top guys play so much that like Mitchell Starc I think he's contracted with Manly, but he wouldn't even own Manly kit.
Is he Manly? I thought he was Western Suburbs.
Well, he was.
Yeah.
Then he moved to Northern Beaches. Yeah. And then,
well, I think it's the international schedule, and it's also the global T20 franchise.
Yeah, right.
You got people like Chris Green and guys like that who can now go away and play in different leagues throughout the world. And even the Big Bash, obviously you got 8 weeks throughout the summer period where there's a lot of grade cricket on, but the guys are off playing throughout Australia. So I think that's been the big impact on grade cricket. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Should anyone who's listening out there who like wants good players to come back and play grade cricket, like listen to the honcho and go like that ship sailed? Like is that kind of the message? Or
my little fellas and my daughter are playing cricket at the Mount Eliza Cricket Club. We've just moved to Melbourne about almost 2 years now. And the club most weeks are asking me, can you come and fill in and play a game? And they keep saying, come play a game of 3s or 2s. I'm a little bit offended.
I had that a few months ago as well.
Surely I'm still... But I've said to them, when my young fella's old enough to play, I can't wait to play a game with him again. And I think that's one of the beauty. Like, it's a great thing about cricket, the fact you can play with your children, and not many other sports allow you to sort of play at a similar level and go out there and run your son out or something like that. So...
Just to let him know.
Yeah. I'm still in charge. So, I reckon a couple of years when he's ready to play, that'll be my next game of cricket.
Yeah.
I was going to say, like, just speaking about the way society is changing, and maybe we're just looking at it through rose-tinted spectacles, being older. You know, for example, you're saying that it hasn't particularly become younger. Just when we were 17, we were looking up to guys who we thought were 40 and they were just 23.
Wow, this guy's got a job.
Exactly. But there was an article in Code Sports recently about how it was ostensibly about Jasprit Bumrah's Yorker and how he developed it in his house because it was the only way he could help his mum continue to sleep if he actually hit the part where like the floor and the wall connected. And this article in Code Sports was about how the housing crisis is impacting backyard cricket, right? And in it, Ian Healy made this point saying, I think school curriculums have more to them than when we were growing up. Kids seem to have a lot of things to go to after school. There's more formal cricket coaching where we would just go home and play, like a lot more free time. So I guess my question is like, how is club community cricket evolving to adapt to the way society is changing?
That's 100% right. I mean, I remember when we were probably playing, it was sort of backyard cricket and whatever footy code it was in the winter. But the curriculum is far more. There's so much more focus around literacy and numeracy and so forth. And cricket's one of those sports where it's bloody hard. Like there's a lot of complex skills. Like bowling a cricket ball, if you've never done it before, it's tough. Catching a 142 gram hard ball is hard for a kid, or trying to throw a ball is hard. So it's a real worry for our sport that that free time when people play a lot more backyard cricket, or there's a lot more physical literacy in schools, and PE was probably prioritised more than it was. I think our sport, more than all others, has a real impact if that's not the case anymore. So our AUS Cricket Blast program is just so important. We look at it being like backyard cricket, but better. It's the opportunity to, I guess, instill that first love of the game that we probably got from when we were playing backyard cricket or street cricket or whatever it was. But it's also where they can develop those fundamental movement skills for cricket. And what we find is where the growth happens in club cricket is clubs that run a really good AUS Cricket Blast program, they get great transition into junior cricket, and those juniors eventually become seniors, and it's a nice flow-on effect. But often people sort of think, oh, well, we'll just start our cricket at under 10s or under 11s, but so much work needs to be done these days, more so than ever before, to make sure cricket's front in mind. People are starting to develop a love of the game that is almost orchestrated for them because it's not as natural as it was when there was backyard cricket and I guess more cricket in school programs. So that becomes a really important program to try and teach kids the skills and then obviously transition them into junior cricket. And that's the big focus of our strategy at the moment.
So like a big part of your job is to grow cricket in underrepresented communities, I'd imagine. Yep. So multicultural communities, young girls, I'm guessing, and women generally speaking. If I was trying to get like my neighbour into cricket, like then there's like an LBW. I mean, explain that to someone. Like it's like, that must be so difficult to get those communities into cricket. Because I think I read something, you'd be able to tell me that it's like 10% of the people that signed up for cricket in Australia are girls. Is that right?
Yeah, we're more than that now. So
okay.
We've got, so 1 in 4 of our cricket bias participants are now girls.
1 in 4?
Yeah.
Okay, that's
which is
good.
great. And that's the opportunity for us because we're still, I think about 12 or 13% of everyone playing the game being women or girls.
Yeah.
So we're miles away from where we want to be.
Okay.
But the good sign is we've got 1 in 4 of our cricket bias participants now girls. So our opportunity is to bring them obviously through to junior and senior cricket.
Yeah.
But the complexities of cricket, and I know this firsthand this year because my daughter is 8 years old and we have got an all-girls cricket team playing in the under-10 boys comp down the peninsula. And every one of those girls, probably with the exception of my daughter, because unfortunately she's stuck with a cricket family, had no idea about the rules of cricket. So I think the key is the storytelling. Like, how do you explain cricket in a way that kids or people aren't foreign with the game can understand? So with the girls, instead of talking about a crease, we talk about home base. You stay in your safe zone and things like that.
Right. Okay.
And
yeah.
You teach sort of shots to play. We only had 2 shots. We had the slap shot, which is your traditional sort of pull shot, anything in your body, and the full face shot for anything outside. So just trying to keep it really simple and slowly building on their knowledge as you go. But you're right, it's a complex game to explain to people.
Yeah.
Hence why starting at a young age is important, because if you're 13, 14 and anything like me and a bit self-conscious, trying to do something that feels a little bit foreign and you're not sure of, you're not going to want to borrow that in your teenage years. So we've got to start that love and development of the skills of the game when they're really young.
Yeah, so storytelling. Yeah, because I mean, it'd just be like I just liked it because my dad liked it. You know, like, and then...
I was desperate for his attention. But that's a developmental thing.
Yeah, and still ongoing. I started the podcast about it years later. But storytelling is the way forward for it.
Yeah, I think so. It's explaining the game in a way that's simple enough to people understand and then pick it up the more that they play.
Yeah.
But like even the girls team, all the mums in the team, they had no idea about cricket. And 6 months in, they sort of know the rules. They've been watching games and they talk about it. So it's just taking time and trying to simplify it through in messages that kids or people who've never played the game can understand. I think that's the key.
Do you think it is fair to say that like cricket today has, if it is in the entertainment industry, if you accept that, it's got far more competitors than it may have 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. Australia is probably less culturally influenced by the British than it used to be. We don't talk about creases anymore. It saves or whatever. Like, people have less time. Life's more expensive. I can't watch a TikTok for more than 10 seconds. Like how does cricket respond to that?
Yeah, I think the formats that we play are really, really important. Like, we've had really good growth in junior cricket, particularly the last 5 or 6 years since we introduced junior formats. And some people don't like the junior formats, the sort of more traditional people, but less people on the field, feeling like you're touching the ball more, hitting the ball more. It's got to be fast paced. Definitely tapping into some of those audience you're talking about. Like, we've got this huge South Asian immigration. You spoke about sort of our numbers. Like, we've got, I think 18% of all the people playing cricket now come from one of the South Asian countries.
Yeah, right.
And over a third of all our participation is people from multicultural backgrounds. So obviously tapping into the people that have already got that instilled love of the game is really, really important. But yeah, just making sure the game's relevant and flexible and innovative. That's the key, because I mean, when we all signed up, you sign up in September and you commit to 2 nights of training and you play Saturday and usually get dragged into playing Sundays. Like, people are far more reluctant to do that now. So trying to up opportunities for people to play midweek afternoons, like the under-10s girls comp that we play is on a Friday night. It's a great way to finish the week. But there's an option for Saturday, an option for Wednesday. It's just trying to make sure the game stays relevant with increasingly busy lifestyles for people in the community.
What about this stuff that you see? Sorry, he goes, pop up every couple of years where there's a new rule in junior cricket where, like, if you get out, you're not actually out and you get to keep batting, and then you get some older blokes come in and go, well, that's actually not how you learn or develop. What's your position
Meanwhile, in India, some kids scoring 1,000. Like literally 1,000.
That's right.
Yeah, I think,
and we can't get our first ball.
The great thing about cricket and the community that I've found in this role is there's so many people out there that just care so much about the game, and we shouldn't.
One way of saying it, yeah.
A little too much.
Yeah.
But we shouldn't take that for granted. But sometimes you just got to lean on what the data tells you as well. And ever since we introduced the junior formats, we've had a 6% increase in retention. So that means that more kids are coming back to play a second year than ever before.
Because they're given a go to play.
Because they're given a go. Yeah. And there's absolutely a place when you start getting into rep pathways where you need to bat for longer periods of time. And
where you can dominate the hell out of the kids.
That's right. Where you can live your father's dream.
Exactly. Now we're talking.
I'm back in.
Dad will come out from
But I think when it
tree.
comes to getting more and more people to play, it's around making sure everyone's got opportunity, fast-paced, making sure everyone's playing at the right level they need to. And there's absolutely space for developing talent, but it doesn't really come at the grassroots of the game. We try and inspire love of the game.
What about I went to a Big Bash game this year. I actually ran into Nick Cummins, head of Cricket Victoria, and we were talking there, and I just couldn't believe how different the crowd was from a Big Bash game to like a test game. They're completely different demographics. Like there were so many young kids who were mainly interested in putting an empty bucket on their head, to be fair, and just collecting as many buckets as possible. Less of that at test matches, though that's not exclusively true. But like the Big Bash, is it like a gateway for kids? Is that what we're doing with it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the purpose of the Big Bash originally was to create or target new audiences for the game, and it was largely around families, kids, and young girls. And I think we've absolutely done that. I think the last 12 months, I think crowds are up between 20 and 30% on the Big Bash. So new audiences, it's really almost that intersection between cricket and culture and entertainment. And then the Test cricket. But what's been funny, I've noticed about Test cricket, and the Test cricket this year was really interesting because I think a lot of people thought, it's going to be a tough summer with Pakistan and West Indies.
Ended up being good. The games were good.
The games were great, and they could have gone either way. But the crowds were really good. I think we had over 30 sessions with over 1 million people watching it, and that's sort of the benchmark for the footy codes. Like, can you get 1 million people watching? We had 30 sessions of West Indies and Pakistan where people were watching it, and the crowds were good. But what you notice in the crowds, some of those crowds that probably started new people, new families that were starting to watch Big Bash, you're starting to see more of those families start to enjoy Test cricket as well. So it's funny, there's a lot of talk around the future of cricket and the balance between ODIs and T20 and Test cricket. My personal belief is there is place for all as long as there's relevance. And whether it was the sort of 50 over World Cup in India, which was really compelling. I mean, the Test cricket's been fantastic from Ashes to this summer to, I think the New Zealand series is already sold out, I think I read.
Yeah.
And then you got the rise again of the Big Bash over last season. I think the game's in a good place, but there is a place for everyone, and you start to see people who like one format start to show a bit more interest in others, which I think is a good thing for the game.
You're a Sydney guy, is that right? Like who's come down to Melbourne? And
Queensland originally, aren't you?
Born in Queensland, yeah. Grew up in Barrel, so Bradman territory.
Yeah, okay, that's nice. I played with the Wars. Okay.
Moved to,
I'm getting Bradman, Steve Ward, Junior, Kettle.
Yeah, some name dropping going on. I moved to Sydney when I finished school, and played my cricket at Bankstown, and then been in Melbourne last couple of years.
When you finished school, okay. I asked as again I hope you don't mind me calling you the honcho of community cricket, kind of like a Pablo Escobar style, but being down here in Melbourne, I know my eldest son has just started school. When he comes home from, his first day at the school library with a bag of goodies, he has like 3 or 4 different Aussie rules, AFL paraphernalia in there. Like the clutches of this organisation into society here is like, I mean, it's something to behold, and I'm sure we all speak with respect for that and whatnot. But, do you see yourself in competition with a sport like Aussie Rules that appears to me, I'm happy to say this, that has monopolistic ambitions? We regularly contend that Australia's cricketing summer, at least from a professional standpoint, appears to be shrinking. And that the noise around Aussie Rules, probably rugby league as well, is growing either side. Do you see yourselves as in competition, for the hearts and minds of children, or is it, you can have your space and we'll have ours as long as you leave us alone, which they won't?
Yeah. I think there's no doubt we're all in the business of hearts and minds of children, and it's not just other sports; it's technology, and recreational pursuits, and so forth. The AFL, you hear about AFL in Melbourne when you don't live in Melbourne. When you come down here, you can't help but get swept up in it. But we don't get too. I know this is probably the political answer. We don't really get too caught up. Like, we've got a great relationship with the AFL.
Is it because most people want to work at AFL later? I know most cricketers want to play AFL.
Yeah, some amazing things. But I mean, cricket, we've just got so much opportunity in front of us. Like, we know what immigration's doing. We know where they're coming from.
Yep.
I think I read somewhere the other day that we're going to be able to fill the MCG every year with people coming from Indian heritage over the next period of time. So we know that's an amazing opportunity.
AFL doesn't have that.
AFL doesn't have that. We're the second most popular sport in the world after soccer. We're really excited about the opportunity in the US. We feel like that's going to be a really strong market for us. And we still feel there's so much room to go for the game for women and girls. And we're developing a women and girls action plan for the next 10 years at the moment. So we don't get too swept up in the other sports. We've got a great relationship with the AFL, particularly with the winter sports. Like, we don't have to compete. They can compete with each other. That's fine. But there's always a little bit of tension around sort of the ends of seasons in terms of grounds and so forth, and that's part of it. But overall, our relationship with the AFL is really healthy, and we want a heap of people playing AFL just like we want a heap of people playing cricket. And they just need to make sure they don't come into the summer territory too much, and we'll do the same, be respectful of winter.
What about if we took the Big Bash to Vegas for a couple of games to grow the game?
Yeah, sign me up for that trip.
Yeah. Well, I'll go on the study trip.
Yeah. I'll have a look. Yeah.
No, there's a fair bit going on. I mean, the World Cup obviously in America.
Yeah.
I think Ricky Ponting signed up for Washington, or
That's right.
deal with Cricket New South Wales.
Yeah.
So the States, I mean, everyone's after that market.
Yeah.
But I don't know the numbers, but I know there's a lot of people of South Asian heritage living in the States, and there's strong appetite. I think the World Cup game, they had a ballot and it's sold out 50 times over or something already. So it's going to be huge over there. But if there's going to be a game in Vegas for the Big Bash, I think there'll be a long list of people looking to get over to that trip, and I'll be front of the queue.
Yeah. That's that India-Pakistan game at that temporary stadium is going to be absolutely wild. Just in the sense of, like, what's the deck going to be like on Long Island, you know?
Did you both get a chance to go to the India-Pakistan?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah,
that
we were
was
there.
Best thing I've
ever seen.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. The atmosphere was just unbelievable.
Yeah.
They didn't leave their seats. And
It just makes you think about, like, if they get a test series happening, India-Pakistan. I mean,
no one will go.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, it's footy season.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
All right, well, we've established goodwill. Play HQ. No, let's be serious. So it's the platform Australian club cricket uses for registrations, records, fees, live scores of games. It describes itself as the operating system of choice for community sport across Australia. Don't think it's unreasonable to say it's received negative attention in the press recently, and has in the past. As you know, we asked our audience recently about their experience with it, and the truth is the response was mixed. Lots of people had issues. Most of the comments were jokes in response. Some people said it's okay. So how do you think it's performing, and do you think the criticism is valid?
Yeah, I think the feedback that we're getting about it is absolutely valid. I mean, it's a platform used to support volunteers who are the heartbeat of the game. So if we're not listening to feedback and not trying to make the platform better, I don't think we should be in our roles. How's it gone? First year, so we've done a 2-year rollout. We took 50% of the country on board last cricket season, and the other 50% of the country this year. Okay. First year was really challenging. A lot of integration issues with data not sort of feeding up to the Play Cricket app. We haven't had those issues this year, but I think at the end of the day, the My Cricket legacy administration platform, I think it's 15 years old or something. It was built on old technology. We just couldn't scale it. And our big aspiration with our digital transformation is to make volunteers' lives easier and provide personalised experiences that enhance everyone's experience in the game. So Play HQ is going to allow us to do that. Now, the development of the platform is ongoing, and we're going to constantly take feedback to make it better. I know there's been big issues that put volunteer burden on transfers and permits, and that's something we're looking at to try and streamline the process and make it easy for next year. So I think the second year's gone a lot better than the first. I'm with you, Sam. Like, feedback I got from some of the articles, I probably had more emails saying, we love scoring on this. It saves so much time. We don't have to upload scores. The registration process is really easy. And I think your point at the start's important to make as well. Like, Play HQ, it only does 3 things. It's registrations and payments, allows you to fix your games, and you score on it. Everything else you experience from a technology digital point of view in cricket comes through the Play Cricket app. or it comes through the Play Cricket web experience, which we've just released, which should hope with finalisation of finals and presentation nights and records and so forth. So there's no doubt it hasn't come without its challenges. Appreciate everyone in the community has had to jump off a legacy platform they've known for sort of 15 years, but we are really optimistic that Play HQ is going to be far more intuitive platform to help make volunteers' life easier and then enhance the experience for people who play the game or support the game.
So why was the change from My Cricket to Play Cricket? Because I mean, heaps of people have said like My Cricket was good.
Yeah, it's funny. I've been thinking about My Cricket, and My Cricket was good for a period of time, and there's a lot of sentimental connection with My Cricket, and the comparison I make, like, I don't know, you guys, I used a V100 when I played, like Mark Wall was playing with his bat.
Yeah. Did you use that in front of him?
Yeah, I just made sure and got him to sign the corner. But it still sits at home.
Yeah.
And my little fella who's 10 now, he's got this New Balance thing, and when I hold them up against each other, the New Balance thing is about 4 times as thick. Obviously, it's lighter, and the V100, which I thought was the best bat in the world, is totally thin. I don't know how I used it, and it's probably similar. My Cricket was fantastic, but it was built on old technology. It was only 2 or 3 years ago. I remember being around national championships, and they were scoring on it, and it just kept crashing. It couldn't cope with all the data coming through at a period of time, and people sort of have forgotten that. Now, Play HQ hasn't been perfect, and it'll continue to get better. But we know it's built on far more modern technology, which is going to scale up. Like, we've got big aspirations around participation, which means every weekend there's more and more data going to be coming through Play HQ for us to surface through the Play Cricket app. And we need to have a tech platform that sits underneath it that can power that. And My Cricket, the old technology wouldn't allow for that, so we needed to make a change. Yeah,
and so, because it's how much does it cost? Like $22-$23 per player? Is that?
It's $16, give or take for a junior, and $22.50 for a senior. That fee is a consolidated 3 with 3 components. The largest being insurance, which covers about 50% of that $22.50 or $16. There's $4 that goes to Play HQ for the platform, and the other $4 goes to our tech fund, which allows us to do things like highlights in the app, streaming games, chopping up your 4s and 6s and having them sitting there at the end of the game. So all those sort of digital experiences that, I guess, good for dads who don't want to go watch their sons play. They can use that as an excuse now that I'm just going to watch the app. It's streamed there and I've got the highlights. So but those enhanced personalised experience, that's where some of that money goes. So that national registration fee is a consolidation of those 3 pots.
Okay.
How long do you think it's going to take before you win positive sentiment from the community, or perhaps that doesn't happen? It's just a phenomenon where we all want to complain about stuff. Like, I mean, that is something that could be true, but I do think the anecdotal feelings of people is roughly like accurate, that people are struggling with a lot of the change. Some people having it okay, but how long? Like, would you be asking for people's patience for a while this digital transformation, this change takes place?
Yeah, I think we just got to keep demonstrating that the feedback that we're getting has been taken on board, and we're improving the platform. I know people have had some issues with their stats, and it is really complicated because some people's stats now come from Play HQ, and you're going on Play HQ, and a lot sit on My Cricket. And when you link them together, you get your career stats. And I know a lot of people had issues with it, and there's so many nuances as to why. So as an example, Sam, if you played for the Tigers back in 2000 and you had a few years off and then decided to go play for North Sydney Bears in 2004, you may have created 2 My Cricket IDs. And when you go to link your Play HQ, because you just made a comeback in Melbourne, you might only get one of those My Cricket IDs linked with Play HQ, and we've got to go find your other ID. So there's all these nuances. So to answer your question though, when are people going to feel more comfortable with it? I just think we've just got to keep demonstrating that it's getting better and better, and some of the issues people have had have been addressed. In saying that, it needs to be really data driven too. We can't just have people saying, I like a particular feature and it's not there anymore, but it suits that particular role in the game. One of the issues with My Cricket is we try to make it everything to everyone. So this is around sort of standardisation for the biggest issues or jobs that people need to do in cricket. So I think as people use it more and more, we continue to educate and provide ongoing training to teach about how to use it and the new improved functionality. And we can demonstrate that this is a more intuitive system that's going to make your life easier over time and enhance the participation or supporter experience. I think people will really enjoy using that platform.
So, I mean, how much money is of $22.16 for juniors? How many people are on the app? How much money is in total that it gains per year?
Good question. We're going through. We've got about 250,000 junior and senior registered
Okay,
participants.
so a bit less than $1 million then, I'm guessing. Yeah, okay, yeah. So of that per year, is more money going to be put towards like fixing the bugs? Because people have said in the feedback, like, yeah, fill in players, it creates like, it fucks up the whole system basically kind of thing. You know, you lose track of where players are playing, if they're playing, when they're playing, whatever. So obviously there are bugs in this. I've got no idea how an app works, nor do I pretend to know how like a back end of an app works. But like of say 900,000 million, whatever the number is some money going to be put towards like fixing those bugs? Yeah.
Absolutely. That's where the money goes towards. So the asterisk one's a really good example. So the reason there's asterisks in the scorecard is basically because someone hasn't registered. So the only way you can get your name in the scorecard is if you're registered. Now
you are allowed to opt out, aren't you?
Or you can opt out.
This is what I would do.
Yeah,
just
aren't they like private players?
Like I did, you'd probably have. Yeah, I'm going to tick. I want to have a privacy setting, and you're an asterisk because no one wants to know who got that third duck in a row.
Right.
But the other one is fill in players. So people might fill in for a game, think, oh, awesome, got away with not having to pay. I'll do another, and all of a sudden you've got people playing consistently that aren't registering. They're the only two reasons people would have an asterisk. The other, we talk about trying to save time for volunteers. I don't know what it was like at your clubs, but we had a club legend who's still there, Eris Dignam at Bankstown.
Right.
And I remember for 6 months of the year, he'd be running around trying to chase subs and rego fees off people. The good thing about paying online up front is it's all done. There's no one trying to chase up people's payments throughout the year. It's all done up front. It's one of those jobs that a volunteer at a club doesn't have to do anymore. But to answer your original question, that money absolutely goes back into improving the technology for our participants. And we've got a list of stuff we're working through with PlayHQ that we'd like to see developed over the next 12 months before the next season.
So people got to pay subs like up front, because for me, like I'd usually decide if we were going to make finals, and then I'd think about
score some runs or something. Maybe the club will look after it.
You might need to stay retired, or you could play, but you'd be an asterisk.
I'd be a private player, definitely.
You'd be a private player.
That's right. That's right.
So you're rejecting Higgins' anecdotal contention a couple of weeks ago that it's dog shit.
Yeah, I think
I just wanted to pretend I was Kerry O'Brien for a second.
Yeah.
No, I think it's going to be a great platform. I think it's going to be able to take the game forward. I do think it's going to save volunteer time. We've got to make sure we're constantly providing education and training to make sure it's an easy transition and provide the opportunities for people to learn the functionality of it. But we also need to make sure we're taking on feedback. And if something's not working, or your ID you haven't got your historic stats, or you're not sure why there's please just give us a call so we can.
What's your number?
What's your mobile number?
0420. Call the CA customer support team. Speak to the state and territory delivery lead for the project.
That's practical.
And we just want to help. We don't want this to be onerous or hard for the community. We believe it's going to be the best platform to take the game forward. But we know it doesn't come without its challenges with a new platform, new process, and so forth. And we're committed to supporting the community through it.
Just also want to be clear, you didn't call it dog shit. It was the anecdotal. It was a combination of people. Okay.
Thanks.
Look, I told you I wouldn't read out customer complaints, but I think you'll be okay with these. This is from Ryan. My players, and this might go for lots of club cricketers out there. Okay, so we're now talking to the honcho who might be able to answer these questions. Ryan says, my players have an uncanny knack of bowling two dangerous balls and having to be taken off mid-over. The live scoring doesn't let you change bowler mid-over. Please fix this, as my club loves bowling dangerous balls.
Thoughts?
How do you fix that, James?
They're interesting tactics, aren't they? Like, how do we get a player out bowl dangerous balls? I've actually got a great story about dangerous balls involving.
This is great. We did play at Bankstown.
Do later, but I think it just goes back to, like, once again, if there's a heap of feedback that we need certain type of functionality is not there, we'll take that on board and try to improve it. If it's, with all due respect to, was it Ryan?
Yes.
It's just one club who've got a dirty tactic of trying to bowl beamers of way of getting wickets, but they need to change bowlers regularly to do it. It may not.
It won't just be one club. There'll be thousands of clubs across the country.
There may be some functionality that we need to improve in the system over time, but we need to be driven by how many people feel like that need is there when you're scoring the game.
Now, you just said dangerous balls involving Sean Tate. Did you say Sean Tate?
Sean Tate, yes.
Okay, well, I'm invested in this story.
Yeah, so I think we were the same age, Pez, 19s. We were playing the 19s Carnival in Newcastle. That year was when they won the World Cup in 2002. Had Sean Marsh and Mark Cosgrove and these guys. But some of the guys who didn't make that team went on to become some of the great Australian players. So Sean Tate played.
Oh, wow.
Tim Payne, Adam Crossway got picked ahead of Payne, and they were miles ahead of the New South Wales wicketkeeper at the time. But anyway, we played a semi-final, and Jason Frazier was the other one. He was in our 19s team.
Okay.
So I'm not going to go down rabbit holes. I'm not going down any rabbit holes with Jason Frazier.
Well, you raised it. Sorry.
What's for lunch, Piss?
Yes. Okay, go on. Go on.
No. So we're playing a semi-final. Jason Frazier been batting down the order. And in the semi-final against South Australia, our opener who'd been struggling got dropped, and Jason was told to open.
Oh, I remember this. Yeah.
Sean Tate opens the bowling for South Australia, and he sort of had a reputation that he's bowling rapid. In his first spell, he bowls 2 waist-high fullies, and that's it. He's out for the semi. So Crazier's batting, he gets through the spell, and it's hot. It's up in Newcastle, and he gets through. I think he got through the first day, and he's sort of red ink. And back then, you only had to draw. We finished a higher, so we just had to draw. We could just bat him, do oblivion, and then go play in the final. So we come back day 2, and he's dehydrated and so forth. So our manager, who's a great friend, David Moore.
Moore,
he was manager of the team at the time. I think he went out and got this massive bag of jelly beans. Huge bag of jelly beans. And Jason Crazier's gone out there to bat day 2. He's like running on empty, and they're all for him to keep giving him some energy. And so we're sitting up there just watching him bat. No Sean Tate saying happy days. We don't even have to field here. Frazier just keep batting, and we're talking a bit of rubbish as you do, and we're sending the jelly beans around. We're eating all the jelly beans, and Frazier comes in at lunch. I think he's like 200 not out. He ended up getting 200. I don't know if he was 200 not out, but he's coming at 200 not out, and he's exhausted. Like, we're all getting around him and high fiving him, and anyway, David Moore comes into the change rooms. And he's got this empty bag of jelly beans, with the exception of all the black jelly beans. And he comes in and he says at the top of his lungs, so we're all around crazy, he goes, right, sit down. He goes, who ate the effing beans? Yeah. And he's standing there with this empty bag of jelly beans with the black ones at the bottom. And he said it again. He goes, we're not leaving this room so someone tells me who ate the bloody beans. And you know when you're at school and the teacher's angry and you don't want to giggle. So we're all sort of putting our heads down, and he's repeating the question over and over again. And Dan Christian, he was the one that cracked, and he started sort of snickering, and then snickering turned to like absolute laughter, and then he set all the other boys off, and David Moore absolutely lost it. He's got his bag of jelly beans and he's wrapped it around DC's neck, and he's dragged him with the bag of jelly beans with the black ones at the bottom. He's dragged him into the bathroom, and we're all like trying to contain ourselves, and he's saying, that's it, you're done, you're on the first bus back to Sydney, you'll never play for New South Wales ever again. And I think DC ended up playing the finals, so it was an empty threat, and I think he might have even got man of the match or something. But every time we see Maury or DC or any of those guys, we always talk about the jelly beans. It was a really good tale.
So last one from me, James. I think part of the reason why so many people loved the Bluey cricket episode was because it spoke to the best parts of like people's memories of cricket in the suburbs in Australia. You know, not formal, just the aesthetic, the space in Australia. The deep lessons cricket can teach you about perseverance and courage and being caring. Like you must have loved watching that episode as the head of community cricket in Australia. Like, is that what you'd like cricket to be for kids, or is it more complicated than that?
No, it's exactly what it'd be. I mean, we spend a lot of money on marketing and trying to grow the game, and a 3 or 4 minute Bluey episode did it in absolute spades. It was just a magical episode. Like, you speak to grown adults and people who have never played cricket, it really brought to life the spirit or essence of cricket in this beautiful way, and it's just amazing storytelling. Yeah, absolutely, that's what we want it to be. And I think, earlier we spoke around some of the challenge with cricket, like it takes more time and so forth, but one of the beauties of cricket in a busy world is it does teach us sort of some of those values that you can take with you for the rest of your life, sort of contributing as an individual as part of a team, and patience, resilience, problem solving, all those things. I think it's very unique to cricket, and Bluey captured it better than I can probably articulate it now. My little fella who's 5, like he's constantly just playing the Bluey episode over and over, and I think anyone who I speak to at a barbecue or sort of what do you for work, say I work in cricket, the first comment back to me is, oh, how good's the Bluey episode about cricket? So it was magical. So we're trying to figure out what else we can do with that episode, because it really did share the spirit of cricket and what we fair to say 3 cricket nuffies love about the game and appreciate the game in a way that was just better than we could have ever articulated ourselves.
I think the next episode should be about Bluey having rest because of loads. Get him into an academy, sports science stuff.
Yeah,
that's what cricket really is.
What did you think about Rusty's relationship with his father in the episode?
Didn't relate to it at all. Didn't
Didn't do anything for you.
Well, I do think his technical advice about getting on the front foot to pull wasn't really correct. But that's that sort of reveals more about me.
that's what you're saying in the barbecue.
It's just the one little issue with that. His dad was sort of clearly serving, in the army, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, paying more attention to his. There's a few things that pop up for that as well.
I'd love to hear your critique of the episode because it sounds like it's hit the mark with a lot of people, but you're a bit disappointed about.
No, I wasn't. I mean, it's one of the best pieces of Australian art I think ever made. Really, just that sort of bit of technique for Rusty. But James, thanks so much for joining us. One thing that was good about this is that you guys will have noted that there was some criticism of stuff you're in charge of, and just got on the phone and said, can we come and have a chat about it? So I really appreciate that. And I think a lot of listeners and audience members would respect that as well. I think cricket people are going to complain about stuff often validly and sometimes not because that's the nature of the game. But respect for coming here and chatting about it all the same.
Thank you. I think we're not out to get anyone with the new system. We are trying to do it in the best interest of the game and the people that are the lifeblood of the game. So we want to support people through the migration and the transition, and we're really open to feedback in terms of what's working well and what's not. So thanks for having me on the show. It's been good fun.
Did you keep in short sleeves as well?
Yeah, I did. I was just,
It was sort of the style at the time.
God, it was going so well.
Sort of early 2000s.
Was it?
So I mean,
what are we talking there?
No, what
Perora?
I mean is that like at the time there weren't options for club cricketers to have a long sleeve shirt, so you might have to like throw like McCullum for instance had like
keeping as well.
had sweatbands to cover it up.
I was one of the great sweaters and still am.
Yeah, likewise.
Shirts, I'd really struggle.
Yeah,
and then I just got stubborn. I thought if I'm catching everything because I've got Ken Hall and Mark Hall standing next to me, I don't have to move.
Yeah,
why do I need to wear long sleeve shirts to?
Was it a 3/4 sleeve or even a wide sleeve?
I never went 3/4 or long sleeve.
And you kept that up in first grade as well?
Yeah, I copped it a little bit, but I just became a little bit too stubborn and proud to want to change it. But I look back at photos now and I look rubbish and people take the piss out of me about it. So maybe I should have been less stubborn when I was playing.
It's good though that people are still policing that, like just policing cricket fashion. I think that's important. It's an important role of great cricketers out there just to police all things. Really.
You can't say that, obviously, as the head of community cricket, that we shouldn't be policing the way people want to enjoy it, the way they're playing cricket, but it is true.
Next week we should get the cricket police in.
James Allsopp. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Right, Pezzo, do you ever get frustrated you cannot watch certain live sports events because they aren't televised or available in your country? With NORDVPN, I can switch my virtual location to a country that is showing the said sports event I want to watch so I don't miss out, and I can watch the action live. NordVPN.com/TGC. What do you get there? Let me tell you, you can grab your exclusive NordVPN deal by going to NordVPN.com/TGC to get a huge discount off your NordVPN plan plus 4 months for free. It's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. NordVPN.com/TGC. Pezza.
Let's keep it going here. So we're not doing adventurous away days for Pajero, but we are talking Pajero.
We had some good times.
I'm not saying it's been replaced or anything like for any nefarious reasons. Just saying, just going to run through some of the features of Pajero here, and here's some copy. Hey, Coates, today isn't about you. It's about me telling you, not about cricket, but a different kind of adventure play.
Okay.
The Pajero Sport. This isn't just any SUV, Mr. Speaker.
Isn't it?
No, it's the Car Expert 2023 Best Four-Wheel Drive Off-Road SUV.
Best four-wheel drive off-road.
Yeah, no, Car Expert 2023.
Car Expert 2023.
Best four-wheel drive off-road.
Best four-wheel drive off-road
SUV. That's right. The Pajero Sport isn't just about getting you from A to B. It's about taking adventure to the next level.
Can it take you to C?
So cars will take you to a certain level of adventure.
That's right.
Are you after the next one?
Yes, please.
Pajero Sport. It's got a brake towing capacity of 3.1 tons.
3.1 tons.
This beast doesn't just carry your gear.
Oh, it has a beast on it.
It hauls your dreams.
Oh, yeah.
And whether that's a caravan, a boat, or a trailer full of cricket gear. And when it comes to performance, the Pajero Sport is hitting sixes every time with its advanced four-wheel drive performance and Super Select 2 four-wheel drive system. This isn't just any four-wheel drive system. We're talking about the ability to switch between two-wheel drive and four-wheel drive at speeds of up to 100 kilometres an hour. So whether you're cruising on the highway or tackling the rugged outback, the Pajero Sport has got you covered. So to all my fellow adventurers and cricket lovers out there, it's time to elevate your game. The Pajero Sport is ready to take you on your next big adventure with the performance, capability and style to make every journey legendary. Pajero Sport, take adventure to the next level. And now that's finished. He goes, you did remind me of mate of mine when we were in Berlin a couple of years ago. Yes, must be nice. We were doing one of the walking tours. Walking tour in Berlin, real good. Yeah, because they don't fuck around with their history.
No, I did a bike tour.
Okay,
must be nice.
That's okay.
About to ride a bike. It's same
motorbike.
Thing. No. Oh God,
pedal bike.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, nice.
I didn't want to take my adventure to the next level at that point.
I get it. Yeah, and the walking tours are really good. There's so many spots in central Berlin that were, sites of, Germany's checkered history.
Did you go to Hitler's bunker?
Yep. Yeah. And there's nothing there now. It's just car park. That's the point.
Yeah. Makes you think, doesn't it?
Indeed. And did you go to the empty library there as well? You're looking like underneath the ground there?
Yeah, did I?
It's where the burning of the books happened.
Yes.
My mate was, we would have been deeply hungover. And my mate was doing exactly what you were doing there. As in, while the tour party, like me and my friend and a whole bunch of people were standing in a kind of semicircle formation watching, listening to the tour guide, he sort of stood at about 45 degrees facing us and was pretending he was also giving the talk. And, people enjoy themselves in different ways.
Yeah, right.
We tipped kindly and everything. He was just doing what he needed to do. But
different moments for different things.
And whatever flicks your switch, whatever tickles your fancy.
Different frogs, different times. Let's talk about the domestic one-day finals and the WPL as well. Western Australia beat New South Wales and Sydney by 5 wickets, chasing 169. It's their 17th one-day title. That's the most. New South Wales next with 12. And it's also their third in a row. Ollie Davies hit 51 for New South Wales. He's got to get in the Australian side, doesn't he, Ollie Davies? New South Wales, 51 in the final.
Yeah. Very impressive.
Before
There's a saloon passage for him. Well, at least give him a game. Get him around the boys and maybe a smoky for the World Cup.
Yeah. New South Wales bowled out in 42 overs, 169. Joel Paris took 4 for 21. WA were 3 for 30, then 5 for 102 in the chase, but Hilton Cartwright took WA to a three-peat of Marsh Cups with 73 red off 80 to win in the 34th over. AJ Ty was the leading wicket taker in the Marsh Cup this year. Daniel Hughes was again the leading run scorer, averaging 56. I was looking at his list day record. Now averages 59 in list day cricket from 47 games, 11 hundreds and 11 50s. So more than half the time, that's 24 out of 47, he gets to 50 at least. Amazing.
He was,
He's 30,
I'm sure a year or two ago, he'd been in conversations with the Australian selectors for being given a game for, how about that? Just idle, not even speculation, just a possible memory that I may or may not have had, but about getting a low-level game for Australia as a reward for his list A performances. Anyway, just got burned there, but anyway, what a player.
WNCL, Tasmania secured their own hat-trick of domestic one-day titles with a 6-wicket win over Queensland with 14 balls remaining. Queensland finished 7 for 248 in the first D, with Charlie Knott hitting 73 off 61 for Queensland. Heather Graham took 3 for 39. In reply, Nicola Carey hit 111 red off 135 to cruise home for Tassie. Heather Graham also made 63. I was reading this via ESPN Crick Info.
Direct quote here. Not picked for Australia since December 2022, Carey knocked back a national contract last April in a bid to rejuvenate her game with a full winter at home. The decision has paid dividends. The one-time bowling all-rounder topped the run-scoring charts in this summer's WNCL with Saturday's runs taking her past 696 for the season. Carey's runs came at an average of 69.6, a mark only bettered by Meg Lanning this season. I swear Nicola Carey was like a key figure for Australia not that long ago. I mean, but hasn't been picked for Australia since 2022. But a great series for her, and 111 red in the final to take Tassie to a three-peat themselves. Tasmania used to be absolutely terrible since they came to the comp in like 2010, I think it was, and then have since been completely dominating the tournament since then, 3 in a row. Good for them. The WPL is heating up. In fact, every team has now played. The opening ceremony was on Friday night, just gone, with Shah Rukh Khan. You need to go see it, Pezza. You can find it on Twitter and other places. It's everything. It's just, I mean, there is a vibe around Shah Rukh Khan. There really is. Like, he's on the stage, he's dancing. There's fireworks and sparklers going off. It's a festival. It's a carnival of cricket.
He's cold cutter, isn't he, Shah Rukh Khan? Isn't he?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and he
Yeah.
got a chant. He got a chant going, like a famous chant going in the stands, like
Oh, really?
10, 15 years ago. I don't. Again,
Yeah.
I'll just bring 20% of a thought
Yeah.
and just leave it at that.
Everyone was
toss
chanting-
it back to you.
Everyone was chanting Daniel Hughes.
It was Hughesy.
Yeah. There are lots of people in the stands for this game. So the first 11 games are in Bengaluru, and until it moves to Delhi after those first 11 games. So this year they're playing in 2 cities as opposed to 1 previously. The first game, MI beat Delhi with 6 off the last ball when 5 were needed by the uncapped Indian Sajeevan Sanjana, I want to say. Delhi captain Meg Lanning scored 31 before Alice Capsey 75. Jemima Rodriguez 42 got Delhi up to 171 for 5. MI, their 2 star Indian players, Bhatia and Harmanpreet, scored 50s, but with 5 needed off the last ball, MI, who won it last year against DC, got the win again. So MI and DC were in the final last year for the WPL, and it looks like they're the 2 strongest teams this year. RCB beat UP Warriors by 2 runs the following night at Chinnaswamy. A couple of great games. Aussies Georgia Wareham and Soph Molyneux bowled the last 2 overs, defending 16 and only conceded 14 to win that game for RCB. The following night, MI then beat Gujarat Giants, chasing GG's 126 with 11 balls to spare. Harmanpreet Kaur scoring 46 red. And then last night, Meg Lanning's DC smashed Elisa Healy's UP Warriors by 9 wickets. UP made 119 for 9 off their 20. Marizan Kapp took 3 for 5 off 4 overs. Radha Yadav took 4 for 24. DC chased it in 14 and a half overs. Lanning and Shafali Verma had an opening stand of 119 to level the scores before Meg was out for 51. Shafali Verma finished 64 red. So that's what's happening in the WPL. It's obviously a bit of a precursor to the men's IPL, which is starting in March 22nd, Friday, March 22nd, which is just after the New Zealand Test Series and obviously the India-England Test Series as well. So that's what's happening with that. Anything else? Hashtag AskTGC.
This is from number 1 ticket holder. It's called Alfred by Someone's Mum.
And this one comes in via Patreon, Pezza.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, it comes in via Patreon.
G'day, boys. So I played cricket by the beach over the weekend in my wheelie bin park shit comp. Actually not that bad, comparable to 2s, 3s grade cricket in our state, but I digress. And the home team was hosting their Ladies' Day. It was the second day of a 2-dayer, so we were chasing 250 with a former Australian Test quick taking the new rock with the slowest outfield known to man. Okay. Clearly we were going to taste it today with no chance of winning, as is the saying from Wollongong. Expectedly, things go downhill quickly, and I go out to bat with us 6 wickets down for 60-odd, first ball after tea. After grinding my way to a gritty 9 off 48, 6 off 31, I'm caught and bowled off a leading edge to a spinner. Nightmare. But at least I chewed up a solid 50 minutes of batting time and could walk off looking at the rest of our batters with the any danger lads expression etched on my face. As I work my way off the ground past the boys, I notice a posse of middle-aged women who are sitting right next to the entrance to the visitors' sheds, removed from the main Ladies' Day event on the other side of the club rooms. As I walk, the more outgoing of the mums, who gave the impression she was knocking back her 4th Summersby crisp apple cider of the day, seemed visibly excited by the imminent wordplay she was about to divulge. Before I could escape the hellish eye contact between me and her, she leans over her gal pals and confidently offers me, better luck next time, tiger.
Oh, God.
Before chortling with the others, shoulders bounding up and down and elbows knocking any and every rib cage in half an arm's length. I shrink. Immediately, I am nothing. I'm no longer the husband, young father, and driven high school teacher I'm known to be. I'm just the fucking wheelie bin loser who's been alphaed by someone's mum. I feign a laugh, shrug shoulders, and walk into the rooms as their laugh echoes in the hallway. I'm not sure whether to laugh, cry, first time, eh? Or jump on Twitter and remind the Australian men's cricket team about the time the West Indies made them eat their own woke shit to make me feel better about myself. The real kicker was after the game, one of my teammates asked me to give my best... Okay, I can do this. Hang on. Impression. A la 59-second timestamp on Roy Orbison's 1964 classic, Oh Pretty Woman. I was wondering why you were queuing that up. So among this, my question is, how should or could I have better handled the situation? Was there anything I could do without it coming across as spraying a middle-aged woman trying to enjoy a quiet one with the girls at Ladies' Day while her son rolls through a hapless opponent? Or could I have really let her have it? Reminder of how many tests she's played, etc., etc. Cheers, boys. Love the pod and your constant fears of the AFP sliding into my DMs. Yeah.
Unfortunately, you've just got to take your licks.
Yeah.
Take licks.
Mate, sometimes you just got to, clap the opposition and say touche. Because it's not just the comments
Well played.
when it's like, better luck next time, tiger, but it's the way she sets up the entire thing. You're not going to do it. I'm middle-aged. I've got my Summersby crisp apple cider.
Today's
I've
my
got
day.
Exactly. And he seems to suggest at the end that it was her son who got him out as well. So it's just, I think sometimes you just got to roll over, let yourself get turned over, and someone goes to work on you. I think that's basically what's happened there.
It's not basically. It's exactly what's happened. I mean, she's got her friends. She's got her friends there. It's a cohort of colleagues and like-minded individuals drinking a Summersby cider. It's her day out.
Exactly.
The day is literally called Ladies' Day. It's all set up for her experience and her enjoyment. And you are just a patsy. You are just one small part of her enjoyment of the day.
But it's basic acting theory, which is you must give way to your fellow actors. I learned this in musical theatre, 2006. Sydney Youth Musical Theatre production of Grease, which I've never mentioned before. I played Vince Fontaine. But it's important to give way to your fellow actors. And in this situation, the batter, who was out there actually playing the game, had to give way to the Summersby crisp apple cider mother, who was the main character in that moment.
But you know that for most people just sitting on the perimeter or the outskirts of just a suburban oval that exists within the community, within any community across all of the lands. And you just look at some strange men out there, oddly shaped, wearing baker's whites in a field, and you're thinking, what is this odd and in many ways archaic sport?
Ritual.
It's a ritual. It's not even a sport.
What
it's
is this human ritual?
Yeah,
it's sort of an ancient ritual they seem to be.
Are they conducting a seance?
It's right.
In the middle there. Are they summoning some sort of gods?
They're glorifying the sun, somehow.
That's what. So when you exit the field, you are just leaving the stage production that is a Saturday afternoon of playing club cricket, and then you are now engaging one of the actors at play, and so that's where the real fun comes to pass. Right. I've had a couple of drinks. I'm feeling good. 6 points in a song. See you guys on the internet soon. Cheers.